Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Westeros. We are coming at you live this sunny Sunday, heading back to A Sea of Spears, which is our Game of Thrones / Song of Ice and Fire RPG. We hope everybody enjoyed our kind of fun-filled filler episode 2 weeks ago with Erica, Ash, and Robert kind of filling in. Felicia and I were moving, so you might notice I've got a new background with the greatest knight in Westeros looking over my shoulder.
Wait, I can't see Sir Barristan anywhere.
D- d- don't test me. I'll go get him. I'll be back in a minute. But yeah, so we're setting up a new thing. I've got my new office all set up and ready to go. Felicia has stolen my green screen, so we're hiding the mess, hiding behind her. Thinking smart. And we are back and ready to get back into the game. Let's do a round of introductions. Let's go in age order, in character, which is probably pretty close to age order out of character. But let's start with Felicia. Hi, who are you? Who's your character? What's going on?
I'm Felicia, and I play Raina Nymerian, heir to House Nymerian, and uh, that's who I am. That's what I do. I, and I don't know where my husband went, but he just disappeared after calling me old. So he's probably pretty smart.
Oh no.
I am the eldest of a pair of twins.
I can't
Uh,
hear anyone.
I am the eldest of a pair of
Can someone else say
twins.
something?
Testing,
Yeah,
Dang,
testing,
it's on my
testing.
end. Hold on. Give me a second.
I was just about to cue Erica, so I won't cue her.
I don't know what
I'm gonna
happened. I
cue
still
Ash.
can't hear anyone.
Ash, let's have you, or no, Luke, because he's the next in the age. But
Oh,
Luke's all frozen, so Ash.
I'm gonna drop the
Yeah.
call and rejoin. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Can you hear me now?
What the heck?
Sound check, sound check. 'Cause it
We've
looks
been
to me
talking for like the last half hour.
and everything was fine.
Well,
Damn it,
something
chat.
weird. Why was it
What
working and then it stopped right now?
What did you do to us, chat?
Hold on.
What did you do to us, Twitch?
Um, all right, so they can hear us in chat, including you, Erica, who we can hear just fine.
Oh.
It's
My,
okay.
my headset turned itself off. That's what the problem
All right.
was.
That,
Oh,
that's
Okay.
all of it.
So we are fine, except that Robert just disconnected, but he looked frozen for a little bit. So Erica, you go ahead and introduce yourself and your character, unless you want me to buy a little bit of time. I can do so.
Okay.
You
Oh
good?
my gosh. Yeah, I'm Erica, and I play Balin Nymerian. I'm the younger heir, younger twin of the heir to the house, and I just we just finished whooping some butt in a big battle against the Vulture King, and I recently rebuilt my computer, and that's why we might be having some changes in the volume settings. So if you notice anything while we're playing today, if someone is much louder than the rest, just let me know in the chat and I can adjust the volumes and everything. And as we see, my headset has a mind of its own and turns itself off and confuses the heck out of me.
Okay. Looks like Robert is back, and that's convenient because he is next in line in age.
Hi, I'm Robert,
And
and I like to turn my computer off by accident by hitting the button. I play Lucaris, the eldest son, and he has been busy fighting in wars. Now he does that now, I guess.
Just now.
Just now,
just now,
the new hobby.
luckily he's pretty good at it so far. So
Mm.
better than Meckerme.
Oh no, everyone's frozen now.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
you're up. Go ahead and talk.
Yeah, Ash, you are up, and we can hear you. So let's try. because we can hear you just fine still.
I actually turned his computer off too.
Oh, there we go. We're all right. Listen, I'm going to blame it on, like, it being cloudy. That's all I've got, and my phone hates Discord and me. Right, so I think it's my turn.
Yes.
It
Cool.
is.
Okay. I'm Ash. I play Adam Nymerian. I am the small soft baby of the group. Adam has just fought in his first wars. First wars, like Star Wars, but rubbish.
What?
Yeah, got to
This wasn't
command
rubbish.
the whole. No,
Right,
of
we
course
want
not.
rubbish.
No, definitely not. Got to command a whole unit for the first time, which is very cool. And yeah, I got to take down a bad guy and send him packing. Well, packing to the wall, but yeah, still.
All right. So we've got our young heroes introduced and reintroduced. And just because Ash brought it up while we're doing introductions, this is a signed card from the actor that played Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, Winston Selmy. And this is a Lord Commander Brienne of Tarth of the Kingsguard Funko Pop.
That's mine.
So, no, it's in my room. It's mine now.
He stole
My-
it to put it in there
my-
with his Barristan Selmy and his Jamie.
My Brienne and my Sam Tarley are out of reach. Otherwise, I would wave them in your face too.
Well, I'm the GM, so I decided to leave my desk and go get them. So I'm allowed. Where we left off was with a rather startling royal decree from King Robert and with his authority, but spoken to you through your uncle, Prince Doran of House Nimros Martell, and the Lord of Dorne. And it was brought to light that the Crown and Iron Throne have decided that ridding Westeros of House Ironwood root and stem is time. And there's of course history with House Martell mistrusting them and all that sort of thing, but this was the final straw. They equipped these outlaws too much. They gave them too much aid and succor and support and encouragement and men. And they even betrayed their own bannermen by sending some of their own troops to fight this army that they had sent some troops and, arms and equipment to. So, Westeros was just like, nope, fuck these guys. And they sent your army, bolstered by some new reinforcements, met by some new reinforcements, to go take Ironwood Castle. And with that, let's kick off our resolution there after you guys get your last bonuses from the Vulture King arc, which is going to be your mathematic kind of mechanical good stuff coming your way. All right? So we're going to do these in order from oldest to youngest. Reyna, heir to High Snymerian, you have received a special title called Dutiful, which is a positive quality you can look up.
Oh.
It gives opponents -1 kept die on tests to convince, intimidate, or seduce you. So you are certain of your place in the house, and certain of your house's place in Dorne, and certain of Dorne's place in the Seven Kingdoms, and you are not easily swayed or, moved
Bamboozled.
from such positions by things that might tempt or frighten your lessers. The Lady Bela, I made a new quality for that's
Ooh.
called Bloody Commander.
Oh,
Nice.
yes. Wow.
You can attach yourself to a unit as a commander or sub-commander, and you still retain the ability to issue orders.
That's really cool.
So
There's a
the
lot of things that
special,
were similar to that, so that makes sense.
yeah. So the special ability that the personal guard military unit has,
Yeah.
you have instead. So instead of them being able to accept a commander, just whatever unit you join, you can still be the boss bitch in charge of the whole army while still getting your spear wet and doing work.
I love
Nice.
that one. That's fantastic.
Continuing with the bloody theme, this is a modification of an existing positive quality for Sir Lucaris Nymerian, the eldest son, who very narrowly escaped several tight scrapes. This is called Bloody Lucky. It's a modification of the existing Lucky one. Once per session, you can re-roll a single test, and you have to take the second result. So it's a little bit weaker than the normal Lucky, which lets you take the better of two. So once per session, re-roll any test and take the second. And also, once per session, if you are injured or wounded, you can re-roll a single test and take the better of the two results. So
Ah,
you
nice.
always have this kind of weaker version of luck, but when the chips are down, you have a second re-roll with the full luck. Is that making sense?
Yes, it does. I'm gonna use
All right.
the shit out of
And
this.
I'll post all of this in Facebook later so you guys can get the exact wording. But yeah, there were a couple times when Luke was just kind of barely pulling through on some crazy stuff. So I thought that one worked.
I posted in chat what you should have gotten.
I'll take that one too.
Yeah. And that brings us to young Adam Nymerian, the youngest of the scions of this ancient and noble house, in whom the Valyrian blood runs deep. Adam, you basically now have the green sight talent, except we have renamed it to Dragon Dreams, because often members of House Targaryen had prophetic dreams. So it's basically going to function mechanically like green sight, but instead of it being a roll of 1d6 that triggers when you get the dreams, I'll tell you. And you will get a dream, and I will tell you, like for that day, what this one lets you do is the dreams are kind of vaguely prophetic, or they give you confidence or courage for that day, a certainty in your destiny. And basically, it just lets you get a +1 die rolled and kept to any single test chosen retroactively if you can describe how you're bolstered in that test from the prophetic dream that you get. So basically, you get a dream of something badass when you want that extra die that's almost destiny point-ish. You can just go, hey, listen, I just remembered this, and it makes me feel like I know I can't fail, right? So it's basically green sight, but instead of it being a die roll that determines when you get it, I'll give it to you about one time in 6. So it should work out about the same. It's just going to be less random. And it's got a cooler name, because you're not some fucking northerner. These are dragon dreams, not wildling nonsense.
That's
This shit's
super
metal.
fucking cool. That is
So-
that is metal. That is very metal. So
All right, so
just
Adam's
wanna check,
magic
so-
now.
Well, I mean, I suppose I'm also like the youngest and crippled, so I'm kind of the Bran Stark of the group.
I think he leached
so-
the magic from those dragon bones in his bow.
Oh man.
Ooh.
So I just want to check, like, so is this something that like you will just trigger whenever, or is this a thing that I ask to roll at some point?
I'll tell you. Like, you will know when you get one of these dreams.
Okay.
It will be very clear. And then for that session, one time, you pick a thing and add an extra die.
Okay.
Alrighty? So, this is partially all because you guys did very well during the Vulture King arc. And you guys had a string of successes there that went about as well as they could, which is partially also based on some of the choices you made. And part of that royal decree last time was also that House Ironwood is no longer the Blood Royal, which was a title that they had held because in ancient days they were kings in Dorne, and they held that. Now, House Nymerian is the Blood Royal. House
Fuck yeah.
Nymerian has +5 influence on that House Nymerian statistic sheet, and every member of House Nymerian gets +1 pip, so +1 to the total of rolls made for reputation and breeding. So it's not quite a +1 to all status tests, it's those two, rep and breeding. So that is the Blood Royal kind of quality, if you want to call it that. And then the Lord of House Nymerian, which is Grandpa Makar right now, gets an extra +1 pip to all status tests for being Warden of the Stoneway. So none of you have that just yet. It's plus half a pip rounded down to the air. So Rada doesn't get it just yet. But yeah, so the house has +5 influence, and all members of the house by blood. So like not your bannerman or whatever, but you basically, you and Grandpa Makar. When you roll rep or breeding, you get to add +1 to the total.
Right. So on the sheet, we just add 5 to that influence.
Correct. Your influence score of the house is up by 5.
Nice.
So, and you guys have got your XP off screen and stuff, so that's all taken care of. I think we're ready to jump in on the siege of House Ironwood. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Do it.
All right then. Just to peel back the curtain a little bit so that viewers can kind of know how we did this. I didn't want to play out this siege. It was going to take a long time, be a lot of dice. It was going to be more dice than the last battle because it was a bigger fight, and also they've all got the castle for like +X defense to everything. And like, it's going to take a while. So instead, I figured we'd cut to the chase. And I knew how the battle was going to go, but I would ask the players the fate of a couple NPCs, and then the players all answered me in private, and I kind of took it as votes and smushed them together and wrote this up for everyone to learn the fate. And players didn't all get the whole story. I gave them the option to read this whole thing if they wanted, or to only have their parts. So some of these players are going to be learning how this goes down for the first time, just like viewers. Some of these players have less impulse control and patience and already read the whole thing, like the boyishly blushing Ash, who I think was the only one that read it all. But,
Yeah.
Robert's been mum about it.
I skimmed a couple spots. I didn't accidentally read the whole thing, so I mostly just read my stuff and then kind of a little bit before, a little bit after.
Wow. So I'm the only one that only looked at my own part.
I only read my own.
Okay.
Felicia
But I made no
didn't.
promises.
I didn't read it.
Sorry, not
Oh.
sorry.
So let's kick this off with young Adam Nymerian's first-person perspective.
We met to parley on the first day. My sisters, my brother, and I rode out to meet the once Lord Anders beneath banners of peace. We rode out with every proper lord in our army, Ned and his sworn knight Lord Beric, along with the 2 lords who had arrived too late to fight John Sand, the Vulture King. Lord Bryce Caron of Night Song, letting his hair flow in the wind, and the old hawk Lord Franklin Fowler. Anders ignored our words. He ignored our allies, even Uncle Oberyn, and called us children. Called us fools and pretenders. Called us villains. Called us killers. You took my son from me. My son! We Ironwoods were kings! He spat at us. Beaten but never broken by House Nimros Martell or the Targaryen invaders. We fought against you in 3 Blackfire rebellions. We fought against you in King Robert's War, and by my son's blood we'll fight against you here. You're right about one thing, I sighed as he and his doomed knights rode away. We are killers.
Take it away, Reyna.
Bela's army spent the rest of the day making battering rams aplenty and a few catapults to keep the once Lord Anders afraid. We had every advantage. We had us, of course, and the Red Viper, the Lightning Lord, the young she-bear, the aurochs, 7 save them, and that stern-faced Sir Balin with no nickname. And we would have been enough if we tried our best. But we had also rather thoughtfully brought along an army. We were joined by reinforcements sent by Uncle Doran, the armies of House Jourdain of the Tor and House Illyrion of God's Grace. Along with Charon and Fowler, we'd more than doubled the army Bela brought to bear against John Sand. Lord Tribor's daughter and heir, Miria Jourdain, led her family's army. Adam likes the books she brought and her notes on Castle Yronwood. Luke likes her for entirely different reasons. The son and heir of Lady Delon Illyrion, Sir Ryan, leads their troops. Damon Sand, Uncle Oberyn's handsome squire, is this Ryan's bastard son. If even half of their troops are even half the swordsman that he is, we'll have no trouble. By most estimates, we've got Anders outnumbered more than 4 to 1. Poor House Yronwood, losing to us again. Good. We are the Blood Royal now. We are the Wardens of the Stoneway. We just have to show them.
Bela?
She's such a bitch.
Yep.
That's lady bitch to you.
On the second day, the Black Portcullis of Yronwood Castle, the real one, not just their stupid coat of arms. It opens and Anders led a sally against me. Fool. If it weren't for him, I could almost respect giving up the advantage of castle walls to ride out to battle. But it was him. So fuck Anders Yronwood. He was a traitor and a loser who was just drawing things out. He had cavalry on each flank, infantry in the middle, and archers still pouring out of the gates. Adam and his bowmen just aimed for the gate and kept firing. Until Anders' dead footman almost blocked the way. Then I met him, horse for horse, and knight for knight, and I had plenty to spare. Our left flank, all racing to keep up with cousin Elia, hit him first. The right flank next, with Luke out in front, but wearing armor, at least. Then I peeled half of each cavalry charge away, gave them to my sister, and had them join up to slam into his center. There was no clash of infantry lines to sap our strength. No grind of shield against shield to draw this out. We just killed them. Reyna and her sword, Balin and his morning star, Oris and his hammer, Edric and the Knights of Starfall, and all beneath waves of arrows from Adam. Our best riders beat his best riders. Then our best riders beat his best infantry. Then our best riders trampled what was left into the dirt. Only a handful made it away. Luke lost his helmet, but we took the field. In the space we'd taken, I had Adam lead his men up close and start to lob a few volleys up and over the walls, just to show them their land was ours, right up to the stones of Yronwood. That night, my watchmen saw grappling lines and climbers in the dark, pouring over Yronwood's walls. They weren't saboteurs, they were deserters, over 100 of them. I called Balin to my tent, then slept very, very sweetly.
Bela woke us up entirely too early on the third day. Sent us to take the castle. Well, it's why we were all here, so why not? We had a great many banners at our backs. We might as well get this over with. Bela had Garrus Drinkwater leading Yronwood's own men against him in the first wave. I don't know if she did it because Sir Garrus had asked her to lead the vanguard. Well, every day since we left Kingsgrave did. Or if she just did it to be a bitch and rattle Anders' troops. But either way, Drink got what he wanted. He led his men, Ironwood's men, and the armies of the tardy lords carrying Fowler. They soaked up the first of the arrows. Adam's archers dueled with Anders, and I looked for some shade up near the wall. I found myself under a shielded ram. We had a few of our men holding on for dear life as Oris swung it. Off the one side, I saw Balin Swan leading the second ram, and Allison Mormont telling their men to hurry it up. Uncle Squire, Damon Sand, had his sword out next to Garrus Drinkwater. And on the ram either side of me. Drink had an arrow in him, but he didn't seem to notice. Oris's ram breached first, like any King's Landers gambler would have guessed. And as he roared for his shield and hammer, I darted through the breach. First into Yronwood. I'd never taken a castle's maidenhead before.
On the bright side, our allies had brought fresh stores of arrows, so I'd led my troops. I had troops in distributing them. Then I'd taken double my fair share. The downside to having all these arrows was that Bela knew we had them and made us use them. It was exhausting. Draw, loose, draw, loose, draw, loose. I was thankful Aunt Ellie had been so hard on us when we were young and made us practice for so long and with so little to drink. I knew every arrow we fired was keeping someone safe. Maybe that archer was aiming at Ned. Maybe that one at Reyna, that one at Luke, this one at Oris, or that one, or that one. I kept up the pace. Aunt Elia would have been proud if she'd seen me. Then the gates broke and our army poured inside. My troops and I followed, and suddenly I had more than just archers to shoot at.
Once the gate was open, I led our second wave in. Others had taken the walls. I would take the castle. I stayed on horseback. I could see better, above everyone else, and hacked my way into the courtyard, and then led the charge against the last, largest knot of defenders. Cousins Obara and Elia rode with me. Yronwood never stood a chance against the women of our family. Bela's infantry swept up the rest, and Barrack got some to climb stairs to sweep the walls clean too. Then most of them just milled around, not sure where to go next. The Great Hall, I pointed with my bloody sword. Idiots. They're the only doors that are barred. Take the Great Hall.
My army took the field. My army took the gate. My army took the walls. My army took the yard. All that was left for my army to take was Yronwood Hall. Anders and 20 loyal men waited within. I had Sunfire. I almost felt like that would be enough, but I brought help anyways. My sister cut down 2, fighting from horseback. Luke took out 3, wishing he'd thought to bring a horse. Our friends, my officers, rushed in alongside. Anders and I yelled challenges at each other, and his master-at-arms charged at me from the flank as we did. Adam took him down with 2 shots from the shattered doorway. My baby brother never even had to set foot in the hall. Anders wasn't going to wear chains any more than he would wear the black. We all knew it, and he knew most of all. He went down spitting and fighting, but he went down. The former warden of the Stoneway was a lump of meat on the end of Sunfire. My army spread out in the castle he'd lost. We had one more prize to find.
Bela had ordered the men not to start any fires, and everyone knew how to treat the women of House Ironwood, treat them with respect. But nobody had said a word about not looting the wine cellars. When I was empty, uh, Maria Jourdain suggested the two of us take a look for Gwyneth Ironwood there. It, the dark and in the cold, where a girl might hide. And, seven take my damn luck, we actually found her. I'm glad it was us, don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't have minded stumbling across her and her septa an hour later or so, or even half an hour, just maybe 10 minutes. Uh, but there we were, the heir to the house Jourdain, the frightened young heir to not much, and her terrified septa and me. I knew it wasn't the cold that had her shivering, but I still offered the girl my cloak to wrap herself in. You're safe, my lady. I tried to sound soothing. We won't harm you. I swear it. I tried to sound like my family had not just killed her cousin, brother, and father only last month. It had been a busy month, but it was time to go home.
Thus ends Anders' Folly, the latest and last of House Ironwood's attempts to betray and usurp the authority of their liege lord. Then we're going to fast forward about a week. Injuries have been healed, prisoners have been sent hither and yon, armies have marched, and we're going to cut to Adam lying on his cot in his tent, dreaming rather fitfully. Adam, you dream of a river. It is cool and bright, clear-watered. You can see the fish swimming in it. It's so clear you can actually see all the way to the bottom of the river. You can see all the colored, smooth rocks nestled against the silt and the soil. Then the water ripples. The water ripples again, this time going against the stream. The water roils and splashes wildly. No, it's the ground beneath the water. There is one final triumphant heave, and a great beast rises up from amidst the water, sand, and stones. It is all fangs and claws, all wings and tail. The beast is all red scales and white-hot fire. It is power. It is majesty. It is a dragon. It is the dragon. Scarred, left for dead, but ready to rule once more. It roars out anger and pride in equal measure, and it takes flight, rising so high that all of Westeros falls away beneath it like a map. You awaken. The army is breaking camp. Your allies have left for their own keeps, castles, halls, and lords. The young lady Gwyneth Ironwood, escorted by your uncle and the Sand Snakes, is on her way safely to Sunspear. There's one last day of riding to go. Then you and your siblings will be home to Wyvern's Rest, in time for bed. And go.
That's very cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, and like Adam will definitely mention that, like when we're, I mean, presumably at like breakfast or like whenever we're kind of all together. Be like, I had this dream. I dreamt that I was looking into a clear river, and the ground underneath it shifted and heaved, and this great red dragon burst out from the riverbed and flew over the land, and it was majestic.
Yeah, that's great, Adam. Hey, is there more wine?
As a quick note, Adam, you know enough about Westeros, and your book learned enough. That was absolutely the Ruby Ford of the Trident that the dragon was rising up from as it lifted.
Yeah.
There's no mistaking that.
Yeah. No. Look, you don't get it. It was the Ruby Fork of the Trident.
It was a dream.
Look. Have you read a book?
I know what happened at the Ruby Fort. I don't see how this makes your dream special.
I think it's a symbol.
Of our
No,
house
we can do
rising,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, done. You know, I've heard of dreams that tell the future, but those that tell the past, that's something special, I guess.
I think those are just
Oh,
memories.
drink your
Luke.
wine.
I'm trying. Why? Who's serving this here? What?
I think your dream makes perfect sense, Adam.
Yeah, I really think it's I mean, given what's happened, I think this is just this victory is the start of a great rise.
I think
I
we all
think it's
started
great.
the great rise ourselves when we got back together.
Hmm.
It sounds like it's just, our house is on the rise, and you're dreaming about the dragon rising.
I think so, but I mean, like, yeah, it just felt it felt really real. And shut up, Luke. I know what you're gonna say.
It's a wine stick.
Next time, I suppose next time I'll try and dream about something you're interested in.
Oh,
If
if you do, then don't tell us then.
Perhaps if I dream about large-breasted women or something, would that be preferable, Luke?
I mean, I still don't see why you'd bring it up at breakfast.
He just woke up.
I think it's a dream.
Yeah, I understand what dreams are. That's why I'm confused. Why do we care? You know what? I'm sorry. It's very, very emotional. A couple days. That is a hell of a dream, Adam. You're right. And no, I'm with you. I think, yeah, we're setting right some shit. So, yeah, I'm right.
Mm.
We, House Nymerian of Wyvern's Rest, the Blood Royal.
It sounds really good, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I just keep saying it over and over again.
It just rolls off the tongue like it should always have been there.
Should have. House Yronwood is no more.
May they rest in peace. No.
Speaking of which, has Uncle left with the girl yet?
Yeah.
He should have, yes.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah, and she will go back to Sunspear, and they'll figure out what they want to do with her there.
Yeah, grandfather can figure it out. He'll know what to do.
Well, it's complicated.
Yeah, it's a damn shame her father was a fucking fool, but
Yeah. I mean, it's good that I don't think she's going to suffer overly much for his mistake.
How old is she?
12.
She's like 13, isn't she?
She just recently turned 13.
oh, okay. Yeah, just
Has she?
Prince Doran and Uncle Albert, well, I'm sure make sure she's treated fairly, but
We'll make sure of it. The last thing I want is 10 years from now, this young lady starts a blood feud with us over the fate of her destroyed house.
or at least we'll have actually destroyed this one.
On purpose.
There's no half killing here, right?
Ah!
Are we actually going home now?
Yeah, we are.
Well, we thought we were coming home after King's Landing, and then
That's true. And we didn't get to stay very long.
Sure, there'll be some other new reason we need to leave.
I hope not.
I know.
I'd like to be home for a little while.
Do any of you have what's the first thing you're going to do when you get home?
Hug grandfather.
Well, that's a good answer. I wish I'd thought that.
Dang it. I was gonna say go swimming,
You've
but
taken-
that sounds. I can hug
Then go
grandfather
swimming.
first, and then swim.
And go swimming. It's warm down here. It's not like in King's Landing.
I think I'm going to have a really deep bath with like orange blossoms and bergamot in it, and I'm not going to come out for like a day.
You'll be our younger brother, the prune.
It's like, you'll be more pruned than Maester. Oh shoot, but King's Landing, Grand Maester.
Oh, Pycelle.
Pycelle, yes.
He must be 1,000 years old. I've never seen anyone as wizard as him. I mean, maybe he's only 1,000 years old because it takes him that long to say a sentence.
I heard he's still giving his first name day speech. Like, it's just taking him this long.
Ah.
The poor dear had to stop to announce people at a feast. Goodness me.
Yeah, like he's always interrupted, but he also takes a long time, so.
Uh,
I'm so glad that he's there and we're here.
Indeed.
yeah. See, even though you said that, I still just had this momentary fear that I would look round and he'd be there.
Tottering around.
Well, don't turn around now, but he's here and he's slowly describing a very long series of objects.
He's creeping towards it so slow.
Creaking.
He might actually be walking down here this whole time.
My
Oh,
He
well,
actually set out with Aegon the Conqueror, like, originally. He just never made it.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. I believe the Maester at White Harbour used to say it's a sin to mock the elected.
A sin? Oh, damn.
Did he know Pycelle?
You know what? I never thought to ask.
We should ask Pycelle.
Oh no, that'll take a
no.
week.
I first met him,
Nope, that's enough. Answer my question.
Thanks.
Or it might be one of those things of you know that it's a stereotype that all maesters know each other or something.
was the great summer sickness when...
That was in hindsight, that was a really fun trip.
Wasn't even that long ago.
Sure, it hasn't been very long, but we have accomplished so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually.
He is old enough. You think maybe he was just, like, put under an evil spell back when magic was still around? But he has to be very slow? Like a slowness?
That's no longer
When you're-
so.
Do you mean
Like the children of the forest cursed him or something when he was a young middle-aged man thousands of years ago?
Look, there's no such thing as a young middle-aged man.
Young relative to what he is now.
I mean,
I wouldn't mind being able to.
Like, I think like the children of the forest curses were real, but I don't think I think they stopped being a thing long before he was born. I think so.
He's real old though.
He is real old, but I don't think he's children of the forest old.
I would ask him how old, but I think by the time he took to describe his age, he'll be a new age, and he will just never end.
Wow, like,
Maybe
it's,
he's
it's,
first.
it's just the it's the roast that keeps on giving.
What if he's just cursed and then he can never die so long as he as he's speaking? So he's going to be always talking.
He can only die when he finishes a thought. He can
Right.
never finish a thought. That's the curse.
That is just that's a premise for a story right there.
Write it down.
You know what? I actually will. I've not got this idea of like Adam writing fiction. If any of us, if any of us was going to do it, it would be him. But
It's about a boy wizard. No, Cortana, don't take over my computer and start Googling boy wizard. What the fuck is wrong with this system?
Possessed by the devil.
Did your computer seriously start doing that? Brilliant.
Despite me disabling all this nonsense several months ago, it's now re-enabled itself.
This is why I'm glad I don't have a Home Assistant wiretap thing to listen to me all the time.
Oh no, I'm fine with being wiretapped by like Google, but Google doesn't take over my fucking computer when I say the wrong word. Anyways.
But Boy Wizard was clearly got it excited.
Well, I mean, it is one of his regular search terms.
Yeah, you're regularly. It's like, oh, I know this. The macro. Let me open a few tabs.
Back to your favorites. So, do we have any other particular plans for your march, this kind of last day of travel home? You do still have the Lady Alysain Mormont, the young she-bear, in your service, and the Aurochs, Sir Oris Waters. The rest of your allies have all left and gone their own ways to make their own way home, including whatever farewells were deemed appropriate by the sisters, as Lord Barrick and Sir Balin took their leave. So various armies have all branched off and made their way back towards their own keeps, and you guys are on the last leg of the journey here to Wyvern's Rest. Any particular plans for this journey, or shall we skip to arriving?
I'm good with going home.
Yeah, I don't think that like Adam's doing anything special apart from being sad to see his new friends go.
Yeah. Raina's sad too because her friends all left.
And her boyfriend.
Not really sad, more wistful. Because there's lots to be happy about going home.
Don't worry, we'll find a nice, handsome serving boy at home.
Not a trained professional look. Is it just the help now?
I don't know what the hell's at home. I haven't been there ever.
I mean, I'm presuming that Wyvern's Rest has some kind of town nearby where there are small folk.
Not really much of one. Your small folk tend to be a little scattered because, like, the main industry of your region is like the vineyards. So you're scattered like most agricultural folk, and you guys didn't quite have the points to invest in a proper town or whatever. So you've got a kind of middling low population, but they're not really concentrated anywhere. Like living around the castle in, not, I don't want to say rude huts, but simple huts and homes are the families of like the staff of the castle and that sort of thing. But you guys don't have like a huge surplus nearby. You don't have that sort of population center.
Okay, so plan, order of business, get ourselves a town so that we can have a brothel.
Because that's why we need a town.
That's why. There's no point in having one without a town, because then there's no one to go to it.
Good point, good point.
Luke's with me, right?
Yeah, I suppose it would be too crass just to open up a room in the castle.
We're not
You're
doing
in
that.
town.
No.
You can.
Not allowed.
Call it the Happy Fun Room.
No.
At that point, it just becomes staff.
No.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Oh well.
No. So we'll just banter our way home.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're all in fairly high spirits.
Well, I don't know why. It's not like you guys been doing anything important this last month or so. Been thrust into the spotlight and then risen to the occasion and more. So
I,
whatever.
I'm like 2/3 of the way through this bottle of cava. I went through that quicker than I expected. No wonder I'm in high spirits.
So
Mimosas are very Moorish.
by kind of mid-late afternoon, you guys are there. The gates of Wyvern's Rest are open to you, and you're reminded of the last time you came home, and the gates were open, and everybody was all arrayed and cheering to see you after your triumph at the tourney. But this is different. This is bigger. You know that the small folk are here because you're bringing their wives and husbands home as well, because you're coming back home with hundreds of troops of House Nymerian. So they're not all just here for you, and you know that, but they are here for the men and women that you're bringing home in one piece after triumph, beating not only the Vulture King, but putting down House Yronwood and essentially seizing the Stoneway in the name of House Nymerian. Prince Doran did let it be known that he and the crown are still deciding the ultimate fate of Yronwood Castle, but as the Warden of the Stoneway, um, for the moment, the responsibility of kind of basic tending to it, to the bulk of the Stoneway, is with your house. Um, Gareth Drinkwater has been put provisionally in charge of Castle Yronwood, just that they needed somebody from down there that has a name, basically. So, they've got seneschals and stewards and stuff doing most of the running of it. But he definitely looked to be just fine. Last time you lot saw him, he was very dramatically bandaged up, sprawling out in once Lord Anders' chair with a bevy of servant girls tending to him, looking rather pleased with himself, and in better spirits than he had been for the entire journey. So he is currently overseeing just the goings on of Yronwood. You guys did receive word from Uncle Doran that you are likely to have House Drinkwater swear fealty to you, which makes it sound like they might be planning to move House Drinkwater up to Yronwood Castle as a banner house to you. Um, so then you'd basically have the Stoneway once they decide for sure who the next heir to House Will is. Um, so right now, you guys basically run the whole Stoneway, um, which means some of your riders are definitely going to have to go back out pretty soon and start riding some longer patrols and all that. But for right now, you guys, in the space of the last 4 weeks, have basically caused House Nymerian to take over this whole way into and out of Dorne. So your
Yes.
people are very happy to see you. You have added quite a bit of influence back to your house, and of course seized the title of the Blood Royal, which is a point of pride to all of your small folk, and also, of course, to all the knights and ladies that are your bannermen. So waiting for you there is, of course, your grandfather, Lord Makar, who is standing. He has recently had spent a lot of his time sitting down. He hasn't got one of those fancy wheeled chairs. He refuses one yet. But there is no denying that he's leaning rather heavily on his cane. At his side, of course, is the ancient Maester Elston, um, who you see is pulling a chair away as the grandfather seems to have recently risen to his feet to be standing up as you arrived. But then next to them, you do have your bannerman, Aunt Elia Sandstorm, standing there beaming with pride. Um, and your bannerman, Sir Adam Bridington, the knight of House Bridington, your landed knight, and of course your master at arms, Sir Derek Fossaway, the strong cider. And Sir Derek, Sir Adam, and the Lady Elia are all competing for broadest shoulders, standing there looking down at you. Uh, Grandpa Makar and the Maester are woefully outmatched on that front. Um, but yeah, and then off to one side, also standing up, but certainly on crutches, is the one-legged Woolly Will of the Bells, who you know to be Sir Willem Derry, um, waiting for his uh, son or ward or whatever the term is appropriate, Sir Oris, to return. So you guys have a warm welcome waiting for you, along with a courtyard full of small folk that are tossing, little braided flowered wreaths to their family members as they return. Um, your troops stay in formation until about half of them get into the courtyard, and then grandfather just gestures, and each of your officers bellows, and your men just start to break ranks and jump from side to side to go find their families, and etc. etc. But they waited until dismissed, to their credit, uh, and then soon there you are, with the short steps leading up towards the entrance, or the first of the interior buildings, and Grandfather Makar, excuse me, Lord Makar Nymerian, Warden of the Stoneway, waits to speak to you. And you can actually see he's got is it a stole that, like, academics wear when they graduate, like the sash that goes just over the shoulders?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the loop that goes all the way around your torso. But he has a stole made that is a distinctive reddish stone of Dorn, that he has not worn prior, so it sounds like he and the Maester wasted no time in fashioning something to make this Warden of the Stoneway thing a little bit more formal. So he's mostly wearing, as he tends to wear more black than the wine red and the gold. But he's now got, this sash type of stole, whatever it's called, with his new title kind of implied. So grandfather still cuts a dashing figure. The
Yeah,
blood of Valyria is still thick in his veins.
yeah. I'm like, now I know where Adam gets the stylishness from.
Straight from him. Well, my greeting will initially be formal, where I will we should take our knee in front of grandfather. And, my lord Nymerian, warden of the Stoneway, we have returned. And I look very smug.
I love you so much.
He leaves each of you kneeling there long enough to be formal, and to feel very official. And then he shares one of his rare smiles, and it's even rarer, like, in the sunlight. Like, you guys don't see him outdoors very often anymore. Um, but he reaches out with his free hand, and he gestures and says, "Rise, blood royal. Let us meet within." And then turns and makes his way into the cool of the shade of Wyvern's Rest. And as you lot are getting to your feet, you get jumped by all of your martial knights and ladies who come running up. And Elia almost breaks Adam's ribs. She's like, "Oh, look at you, my little commander," and just heaves him up, and does a number on him. Um,
It's
Sir
good to
Derek,
see you too, Aunt Elia.
Sir Derek Fossaway, the Master at Arms, approaches the twins, um, just kind of beaming with pride and looking you both over for injuries. And Sir Adam Bridington, the horseman, checks on Luke. Um, so yeah, Aunt Elia is just, you get the feeling, Adam, that if you were 2 or 3 years younger, like she'd be tossing you in the air, like straight up, like you know that she could. She's still got them shoulders, but yeah, like if you weren't so close to your name day, she'd probably be tossing you into the air. She's just proud and energetic and enthusiastic. Um,
And yeah, and like Adam's definitely that's going to be quite infectious. Yeah, like Adam's definitely going to be like really buoyed by that.
You guys
uh,
are so cute.
the knights are a bit more restrained. Neither of them are native Dornishmen, and they both got fancier titles, and they're quite a bit older than Aunt Elia. But yeah, you guys get a once over by Sir Derek, and he gives you those kind of warrior handshakes, like wrist to wrist type of thing, um, and just starts speaking about the battle. Like he's wasting no time in asking for more details and kind of dragging the twins inside by asking about that. Like, no, Balin, tell me, how did it go? And just immediately wanting to know, how the battle went. Not the siege, everybody knew that. But this battle against the Vulture King, which was much less of a foregone conclusion, he's definitely, looking for some details on.
Yeah.
Bela, I'm sure, will regale him.
Yeah. Yeah. She will definitely be uh, gabbing about this battle, on and on about the knights charging, the arrows flying, the guerrillas uh, with their surprise maneuvers, and the eventual
Dastardly guerrilla
surrender
ways.
and capture of the Vulture King, Jonathan Sands.
And then the long, lean Sir Adam Bridington, who is perpetually uh, weathered, um, and squinting against the sun, and his skin has been tanned like leather. He's the kind of Liam Neeson-ish one of your landed knights. The strong sider, you may recall, is kind of like the actor Ray Winstone. He's like the big burly fighting man, whereas Sir Adam is, uh, you know, taller and leaner, lankier. Still goes long swordsman's arms, but not nearly the bulk. He's definitely more in saddle shape. Um, and he
Yeah,
is checking with Luke on the way in, because he knew that Luke was going to lead some cavalry. So he's
Luke is shaking his hand and knowing the men fought very well. We took heavier casualties we would have liked, but I'm describing the cavalry charge on the left, that whole mess on the left flank.
the layered charges and counter charges and counter charges. Uh, yeah,
The bloody nonsense over there.
It was kind of crazy on that flank.
But Luke is nothing but pride for the men, and he saw them discussing the ones we lost. So
yeah, I think I'm probably like Adam probably wouldn't want to like interrupt the conversation Luke's having with Sir Adam, but he would also be eager to like tell Sir Adam that like he's riding again and he got a new horse and he can ride Quintain again and fire from horseback and and share all his progress and it'll all kind of come out in one big sort of
Sir Adam will give you what is very clearly a practiced, skeptical look, much like he would give the lot of you when you were younger, and you said that you had ridden the Quintain clean or leapt over such and such on your steed. That
Mm.
same look that he would give 10 and 11-year-old each of you when talking about your pony. He
Mhm.
gives you this look. He tilts his head up a little, and it looks like he's looming down at you from like 5 feet above, right? It's this very practiced look that he uses the same angle when he's up in the saddle and looking down at somebody. He goes, I don't believe a word of it. I guess you'll just have to show me before dinner.
Ah,
I will. I totally will, person who's not dad.
And soon enough,
Oh, he's the closest Adam's got.
yes.
he's definitely one of them. You know, you guys have a couple that kind of rotate through, but you're all able to walk fairly slowly and keep the conversations going to distract from the fact that you are walking slowly, because one does not outpace the Warden of the Stoneway within Wyvern's Rest. So you're all going at grandfather's speed,
And
without.
that's always been a rule. It's just now.
Yeah, you know. Um, so yeah, so you're all able to. It's kind of an amiable walk and talk as you make your way to the Solar, um, where cooled pitchers of wine are waiting, and like a couple little trays of like figs and grapes and other fruits. Some of them, honey glazed. Some of them dipped in crystal sugar by half. Like the figs are like half in the crystal, so they look all artsy fartsy. But you guys have very Dornish sweet afternoon snacks waiting. Um, and you all notice, though, in the pit of your stomach, a little bit of a sense of relief when grandfather sits down behind his desk. Maybe it's because just his desk is where you're used to seeing him. Maybe it's because you realized that you were a little bit nervous with every step that he might trip. Maybe you're just more comfortable with him sitting down. It's hard to say. But soon you're all in there. Um, the Woolly Will and the Aurochs and the young she-bear are off seeing to the men. You heard Sir Will of the Bells using what you imagine, now, this was a voice that rung through the Red Keep once upon a time when he was Master at Arms in King's Landing. And he seems to be overseeing the army doing the army stuff, and horses being taken care of, and wagons of provisions being unloaded, and the injured being seen to, and that sort of thing, at least initially. Um, and it looks like most of your allied NPCs that are not formally sworn to the house, they're not bannermen, are off doing that stuff. So you guys are in the Solar with just your sworn bannermen and the master at arms of your house. Um, and grandfather has got this controlled chaos on the desk as always. Letters atop letters atop letters. Some of them the small curling scraps of cloth from a raven. Some of them larger pieces, delivered by couriers. Um, some that he's writing, and some that are just maps here and there. Um, and you see that he's got a map, like the topmost thing on this desk, which means the thing he has worried about the most of late, the thing that's had his attention the most, you recognize is a map of Kingsgrave and its environs. And you know that he's been trying to keep track as best he can. Um, but as he sits down and settles into his desk, he reaches up and rolls it back up and looks for a scroll case. Like, job done. I don't need to worry about that. He leaves out a map of Castle Yronwood and the environs, because you guys got to worry about that shit now. But you can tell there's a quiet sigh of relief as grandfather is able to very literally put away one worry, right? Like one concern he had is now tucked away and put on the scroll case behind him. I picture, you guys know, like the diagonal bookshelves that are like the diamonds. I picture like that is like the whole back wall behind him, and he's just got like scrolls propped up in those, like edgewise, lengthwise. So he's very, not quite formally. No, it's pretty formal. Everything Grandpa Makar does is pretty formal. So he very formally puts away a worry, which is the War of the Vulture King, and it is tucked away behind him. And then he turns, and for the first time in a while, he doesn't immediately pick up another letter. He doesn't immediately go for his quill and start writing something. Instead, he just turns and looks at you with his hands, these old, wrinkled hands, a little misshapen from arthritis, but you are sure that they are still strong. And he just puts his hands on his desk and he looks at the lot of you, but especially the twins, and he just says, "Tell me how it happened."
I'll just look at Bela and Raina.
I'm sipping from wine.
I look over at Reyna as the heir.
Wait, look, where did you get wine?
There's
We walked.
wine here with the fruits.
Oh.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Felicia,
Oh my god.
push the talk. There we go.
I was laughing at the where did you get wine?
Yeah.
It was described in the scene.
Adam is very distractible.
Oh lord.
Out the window, Boris is like shirtless,
How it happened.
hammering something. Shit, wine.
Adam is capable of thinking of other things. Like
Adam can be two types of thirsty at once.
Right?
Very fair.
It happened exactly the way it was destined to. We pulled together this haphazard, not half-assed, but haphazard alliance without the support, and in fact, without the support of the the old wardens of the Stoneway to help us at all. They even barely pretended. Instead meant they'd sacrificed. That part is just it anchors me. The betrayal of Yronwood on so many levels.
He gestures very briefly to something somewhere on the desk. It's not on the top layer, whatever it is. He knows right where it is, but it's underneath some other stuff. And he just nods and says, "I've heard from House Drinkwater. Dishonorable." He just said curtly about Lord Anders. But he says, yes, he has received word from House Drinkwater about how they were treated.
Well, we pulled together these allies, and Bela forged them into an army. We took the field, and we took the day, and we all were a part of the army, and it was stupendous.
It did
Rusty,
require
okay.
some strategic thinking. Leading up to the battle, there were a number of events that we could use to weaken the forces of the Vulture King. I knew that going into it with such a large force that having a leadership advantage would be paramount to victory. And as such, we obtained word on the location of several of the lieutenants for the Vulture King, and we systematically hunted them down and slaughtered
Utilizing our allies very wisely.
them. Yes. we additionally received word the day before the battle of a shipment of armor that was intended to assist the Vulture King's forces, and we waylaid that shipment, and in the process, Adam fired an arrow that took out the leader of that caravan, who turned out to be Cletus Ironwood himself. And that was the beginning of when we knew the betrayal had been laid out in front of us. So we commandeered the armor and provided some armor to different houses inside the army, because I will tell you also the key thing for the army was knowing that we were from various houses. It was not just Nymerian troops, and it wasn't just friends. It was from different houses that normally had been on opposite sides of some wars, and I knew that bringing them together would be key to making us fight as a single army. And so we were very careful to make sure that each of the houses felt like they were valued and they were parts of the army. So we intermingled the troops, we had them fight alongside each other, and we provided armor and resources to each of them in kind. And I'd like to think that some of the soldiers made friends with people from houses we normally wouldn't be friends with, including even the Ironwood troops that became a valuable ally inside of the fight. Sir Garrus Drinkwater performed admirably, and when he found out about the betrayal of his lord, he was beside himself to request the vanguard for fighting against the Ironwoods.
Insistent, he was.
Aunt Elia moves almost too quickly to quite see what she does. Like, just darts out and plucks something off Grandfather's desk, which you guys know there's probably a half dozen people in Westeros that can do that without losing a hand, right? like you learned very early when you were young, like, no, don't do that. That little blade he uses to sharpen quills, like, it's sharp. He will cut a bitch.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Aunt Elia,
I was gonna say, like, probably like a half dozen, and none of them are us.
she reaches out and plucks up a letter, and then gives it a little wave and goes, "Yes, we heard something about mingling troops." And she holds it up, and you can see the ink stamp of House Swan of Stonehelm on a certain letter that she received, or that Grandpa Makar received.
I like elbow.
Yes, it would seem that I made quite the impression on Sir Balin Swan.
Mm-hmm.
He was very taken with our Bela's valor and beauty.
Is that what we're calling it?
And well,
Anyway, yes.
not to gloat too much, but it was upon striking the final blow against one of his lieutenants that was called the the Butcher that
it was very impressive.
that we were all standing in a small cavern filled with the blood of the Butcher's men when Sir
Also
Garrus
Swan's blood.
turned around and delivered the proposal himself in the midst of the blood. All over.
Grandpa Makar plays it straight. Like, he's completely deadpan. There's no, like, wry smile or quirked eyebrow. The other sirs and Aunt Elia are fighting laughter. Like, they are absolutely, cracking up about this. But Lord Makar is stony faced and serious. He goes, "Yes, Lord Gulian Swan did not mention the details of the betrothal, but he did write me of it. I have not yet made up my mind on this matter, Bela. I am curious what you think about his proposal. If you'd like, you can tell me when your sister and brothers aren't here."
We're not
Of course,
even
I can tell you right now.
I
I'm
I have-
elbowing everybody.
I uh, I don't think I have any reservations in saying that I would be happy to be betrothed to Balin Swan. He is a very skilled fighter from a reputable house, and I am.
And he's dreamy.
Yes,
Cavalry,
and
too.
he's dreaming.
And grandfather, like, he listens, and you can see, and for lack of a better term, the water wheels turning. It's not really gears yet, but he's thinking about it, and you can tell that he hadn't really thought about it before now. Like, he acknowledged that House Swan seemed to be okay with their second son marrying his second daughter, but he had not let himself seriously consider it until he heard from you. You feel like maybe he's just waiting on one last piece of information before he started thinking. And he
Cared what you thought.
sits and thinks about it, and then he goes, "So you'd rather wed a swan than a Waters, hmm?"
What?
There was a waters on the
well-
table, grandfather?
Grandfather, I know you and Lady. Oh my gosh.
Elena.
Elena, thank you. Have been communicating with each other about plans, but I have not heard anything from either of you, so I don't know of this waters that you mentioned, that you speak of.
If it weren't Grandfather Makar, you would think he was relishing the moment for Adam's wide eyes. And you see Aunt Elia is
Right.
still like fighting this grin, like this just absolute catty grin of a woman in Westeros enjoying listening to other people's marriages be planned, like instead of hers. Like, she's definitely like, she is enjoying the moment in a kind of good-natured way. And you can see Aunt Elia is totally like eyeing Adam and just grinning. Grandfather Makar is pointedly not looking at Adam, as young Adam the archer squirms and looks shell-shocked a bit, and then he
Yeah,
clarifies.
I think he's like literally dropped his finger or something like what?
And then, after just long enough to make you think Grandfather might be doing it on purpose, but it's Grandfather, so surely not. He was just
Sure.
waiting to decide how much to talk in front of us. If it wasn't Grandfather, maybe he was relishing making Adam squirm. But no, it was Grandfather. But then Grandfather clarifies, he goes, "Yes, Orain Waters, the bastard of Driftmark. I had considered perhaps a fresh influx of Valyrian blood, but we will see.
Rusty,
I
you
promise,
aged me
Chris.
by about, you aged me by about 10 years there. Sorry.
I promise,
you think-
grandchildren, I will take your wishes into account. I will make no promises as to how much weight they will carry compared to other obligations, but I do not wish to see any of you actively unhappy with the alliances that we are out to forge."
Thank you, Grandfather. That does mean a lot to me. Perhaps if we could arrange a meeting, that might make me more comfortable.
Out of care, a meeting Just like
With-
you and grandfather?
No,
The
with
bastard.
the bastard.
Oh, okay, with Orain Waters. Gotcha.
Yeah.
He will give a bit of a, I don't want to say a nonchalant gesture so much as a who knows gesture. He goes, the sons of Driftmark come and go as they please, which I thought perhaps might make him a better match for you. But it also makes it difficult to arrange these things. We shall see what can be done. I am yet awaiting word from the Lady Olena on several other suggestions, but the blood of Valyria was my thought. But an alliance with Stonehelm is not nothing.
It has value.
And then he just holds out his hand, and Aunt Elia gives him the letter back. And without looking, he puts it back like right where it goes, which you notice isn't right where it was. Something has changed in Grandfather's head. He is rearranging stuff on his actual desktop. He has dragged and dropped that file. So it's not back where it went. He's just like got it in a different some category that he has going on here. He has moved the potential betrothal and alliance with House Swan of Stonehelm, which remember the fall of House Ironwood notwithstanding, House Swan is kind of the House Ironwood of the Stormlands. Like they're kind of like the other big swinging dick after House Baratheon in Stormland territory, which is actually like their official title because it's the Stormlands. Like that's how they talk. Like that's the Warden of the Big Swinging Dick. Like that's the thing.
That's
Very Baratheon. You're right. Very Stormlander.
But yeah, like they're the rivals to Baratheon, at least prior to Baratheon elevating to kingship, right? Like they're the other big house in the Stormlands. So yeah, it sounds like he must be genuinely pleasantly surprised by this alliance potential with Stonehelm. Blackhaven with House Dondarrion is not a very distant, like third or fourth. Like they're up there as Marcher Lords. But yeah, so grandfather then he puts that letter down, takes a moment to kind of glance at his desktop, and he goes, yes, and the Vulture King himself, a bastard from Starfall, I believe I heard.
More audible than Lord Ironwood, I'll tell you that.
Yes, definitely. He at least had the dignity to know when the jig was up.
and bargain for his small folk lives.
That is true. He didn't send the small folk to die.
Uselessly.
Had circumstances not arranged him as an enemy, he'd have had better circumstances of birth. He'd have made a good ally.
I'd heard you sent him to die in the cold,
Yes.
but with his honor intact, such as it was.
Yes. He earned that.
Considering what he put together in those mountains, I think he'll do well up there.
Yes, and Edric Dane took great pains to insist that he was at heart not an evil person, and I'm inclined to believe him. I think he was misguided more than anything else.
And I didn't believe him for a second. But when his back was against the wall and all he left were those poor armed peasants, he dismissed his army instead of sitting up against us to die. That's what convinced me.
And it told us a lot about him. And guided my decision in what should be done with him.
Well, if the bastard does decide to create more trouble, let it be trouble for the Starks instead of House Nimeros Martell. We shall see. Let us hope we need not hear his name again, and he will do his duty on the wall, keeping us all safe from wildlings and snarks and grumpkins. Uh, Speaking of House Dane, how did young Lord Edric hold himself here on the actual field of battle?
He is. I mean, if I may interject, my perception is that Edric Dane is every measure of a good lord. I would say even that, despite his years, he is a better lord than many.
There's greatness in that boy, and it's not that far from the surface.
I agree.
And his disposition towards House Nymerian. He thinks on you favorably?
Friendly.
Yeah.
I believe so. He and I have, I like to think, become friends. So I have every reason to believe that he will look upon our house favorably.
At the he and I part, you guys noticed that grandfather's kind of like idly tapping finger type, just general little fidgeting. Not fidgeting makes it sound nervous. It's not. It's activity when grandfather does it. But you notice as Adam starts with he and I, like grandfather freezes in the middle and like starts to listen very attentively, and he lets Adam finish, and he goes, "Yes, well, I have heard no news of young Lord Edric being betrothed yet. Let us hope when that time comes, it will not be to an enemy of our house. The Knights of Starfall are renowned for a reason, and perhaps in a few years' time the boy will bear the blade. Let us endeavor to keep him friendly. Speaking of House Dane and betrothals, there has been no disturbance in the arrangement between House Dane and House Dondarrion?
To my knowledge, that agreement is as it stands. It is as it has been.
Grandfather, if it would help matters, I would be happy to maintain a correspondence with Lord Dane and perhaps guide him in a direction that's favourable to us regarding that.
Dane and Dondarrion together would be powerful allies in this region. House Swan or not, keeping the Lightning Lord harnessed to us would do us well, but not at the expense of favorable relations with House Dane. We will not see them dishonored by the means that we use to keep House Dondarrion close. Tread lightly, granddaughter, he says with a glance towards Reyna.
Is there anything this old man doesn't hear or know?
I'm like, says the guy who was banging Olenna Tyrell.
Day?
What you guys have to see is every night at Luke's tip, dear Grandpa, these people are sleeping with these people today.
Anyway.
And then
I don't say that in character.
You guys assume.
But in his head, the only straight Adam is a straight up bitch.
Speaking of alliances, the young she-bear returned with you. That was good to see. I doubt we'll receive any significant aid from House Mormont when the time comes, but they are charmingly earthy, I suppose.
Good fighters, fun people. Far away.
In my head, I'm like, when what time comes? But I don't ask. But anybody who knows me can see that question in my face.
Also, the Waters boy, Wills, he does not call him Roberts out loud.
Sir Oris, the Aurochs. He does well. He thrives on battle and seems to get stronger after everyone.
Yeah.
He killed 100 men like it was nothing at the Battle of Jonathan.
Sorry, out of character, the best part is that, like, the most reasonable argument against that statement is like, Adam, don't exaggerate. It was 80, right? Like, it's like
That was
even
not a
try-
way.
right? Like, even trying to clarify, it's like, no, like that's what happened, you guys. All right, grandfather will just give a nod and he'll say, the boy keeps his fury pointed elsewhere, though, the enemies of our house, rather than our allies after his altercation with Sir Willem.
Yes.
So far.
Yeah,
There-
out of
there-
character,
there-
it did seem like he got that out of his system
Yeah.
Yes,
that night.
There have been no other outbursts of that sort.
Good, good. Uh, there's no other word from Driftmark as to your cousin's health, and he gives Luke a little bit of a look. We will remain abreast on the situation. You have missed little other news from King's Landing. Renly tarries in the Reach with his friends, though we may yet hear from them soon. The fall of Yronwood, did it also go as was expected?
Yes. In many ways, it was easier of a battle.
It felt inevitable.
You got no trouble from Ryan Yronwood? Out of character, that's Damon Sand's father. Damon is his bastard from some other chick, but he's the one that is married to Enos Yronwood.
Isn't he Ryan Illyrian?
Yeah, out of character. Sorry, did I say Yronwood?
Yes.
Said Ironwood, yeah.
My bad,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
He's Ryan Illyrian. He was leading the troops. He was married to Enos Yronwood.
Enos Ironwood, yeah.
Yeah,
There
and,
was there was no difficulty. He led his troops. They fought well. He fought well. There were no problems there.
The impression I got from both him and from the Drinkwater troops and from indeed the Ironwood troops that they were not on board with Lord Anders' decisions and were happy to support us.
Good. The Lady of God's Grace seems to yet still be in good health, but one can never tell when a seat may change power. I would hope that Enos Yronwood does not pour poison in her husband's ear, and we will not have the blades of House Illyrian at our back, but if she blames her father for the death of her brother, rather than blaming us, that should not be a problem. It may come down to how the prince treats the other girl, Gwyneth. She was unharmed.
Unharmed completely.
I saw to it.
Yes. Luke made it very clear that she was not to be treated disrespectfully.
My nephew tells me we may need to see to the girl. And sorry, to be clear, this isn't the tone of see to, as in like take care of it, says the mob. Right? He's not gonna like toss her in the ocean. But he goes, she'll be needing a husband before long. And here you actually notice Sir Adam Bridington shifting uncomfortably. sounds like maybe Lord Makar has finally started to have talks with Sir Adam about needing to marry someone. You
But
do
not this
remember
child.
you do remember that the marriage of the Lady Iris Dannett was also your responsibility to figure out recently. So between those two, who knows what he may have been trying to talk to Adam Bridington about, but it sounds like there have been some discussions on that front. And then Grandfather just nods thoughtfully, as though he gave himself the other half of some conversation in his head. And then he just stops. He goes, "Good, good. The reports that I have received are as glowing as my grandchildren deserve. I am proud of you, all of you, especially you, Bela. I know this was a first for you, and it will not be a last, granddaughter. We will see battles again before things are done. But know that you have done House Nymerian proud, and by extension, House Nymeros Martell, and the old blood of House Targaryen. We will thrive, I think. We will thrive."
I believe so too.
Yes.
And when Adam's saying that, he's very much got like his that dream's still very much in his mind.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll get the paperwork and just nod, as if to agree there's work to be done.
that's enough for now, I think. Go clean off the road and the stink of bandits and the false Lord Anders. I will see you all for dinner shortly.
Thank you, Grandfather.
Grandfather, it's good to see you.
You also, children. You also. And with that, and probably with dinner, actually, we are going to cut to our break a few minutes early. When we get back, we're going to largely transition out of character for a little bit to finally do some house maintenance roles. The kind of monthly checks that you do for house upkeep and some house activities. We're going to kind of go back in time a little bit and do the house manage resources role for kind of last month in game. And you guys will make that house fortune roll and potentially get to shuffle some points around. And then after that, we're going to go a little bit in character, a little bit out of character, because the action for the house for this month is going to be planning young Adam's name day tourney, because hosting a tournament is a formal house action. So we're going to do one kind of generic house action just to do that random roll and see how things go. And then when we get back, we'll start talking about some of the mechanics of hosting a tournament. And then also in character, I want you guys to start talking about this tournament, because it's going to be the rest of this arc. This tournament and any shenanigans that might happen with it. I had to plan the last one. I'm not planning this one. So you guys get ready, because you're going to be hosting the feasts. You're going to decide how the knights are arrayed. There's a couple different ways. It doesn't have to be those kind of brackets the way I did randomly. So yeah, you guys have some options coming up. So viewers and also players, we'll see everybody back here in about 10 minutes as we go wet our whistles. And we'll come back to roll a couple dice and see how bad you guys fuck up Wyvern's Rest.
How dare you?
We have other castles. We can move to them now. There's Will. There's Ironwood. We can just trash this place and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back from break. 10 minutes go so fast because I miss you guys. We are going to pick up with our first ever kind of look at the House in Action chapter. Prior to all this, we've kind of glossed over this part because the actual players were pretty stinking busy and they weren't at home. They weren't trying to manage the house from far away, which is absolutely something that you can do. Um, but you guys also aren't the lords of the house, so it hasn't really come up. Now, what we're gonna do though is have you guys kind of take over as you assist grandfather in the lead up to some stuff. I am gonna have you guys making these rolls instead, because it's just more fun when a PC does something that affects the PC's house. So, Grandfather Makar is certainly still the Lord of Wyvern's Rest, and he's still certainly running the house. But you guys are going to be assisting him enough that we are going to have you lot making the rolls instead. Okay? And the way these work is House Fortune rolls, they suggest doing every couple of months, like as rarely as once every 3 months, or as often as once a month. Unless we're doing a time skip, I'd like to stick to the once a month because it's just more fun to roll dice and have things happen than not, right? That said, there are going to be times that we're going to jump forward a year or maybe 2 years, or maybe more. Who knows? We'll see. Things crazy. And if we are doing a bigger skip, then we'll adjust the rate of the house fortune rolls. We're not going to come back from a time skip and be like, "Hey, everybody, here comes the next big dramatic thing," and then roll house fortune 24 times, right? And then do the next big dramatic thing. Like, we're not going to do that. Okay, so we are going to tinker with it some, and by default, it's about once a month. And there are certain things that modify the house fortune dice. Basically, it's a status test with bonus dice from stewardship that apply, and then you have modifications based on certain holdings. For instance, a maester gives a flat bonus to these rolls, instead of doing the assist as like an NPC helping out. You just get a bonus. The vineyard gives a flat bonus to house fortune rolls. It is where the wealth of the house comes from, and that
I forgot we
takes,
had that.
and that takes some of
Why
the
from you ask?
that takes some of the edge off of these rolls, because a house that has mines and vineyards and stuff like that is assumed to have a certain amount of stable economy, etc., that gives you a flat bonus on these house fortune rolls. Now, house fortune rolls are fickle beasts. There are some very high rolls that can still be bad. Like a 29 is a curse. Like, and it tops out at 42 or more. From 42 on, it's only good stuff. But like all the way up to like a 29, you're still able to get bad results because it's Westeros, right? And sometimes poop happens. And some of what happens with these is when you guys make the roll and you gain or lose some stuff, it helps the plot come along because I decide, for the most part, what is gained or lost and why, right? So it's a way to toss some monkey wrenches in, right? So we're gonna do that. And give me 1 second, because I forgot, like many other fucking things in this book, they are laid out very strangely. The rolls that you make for House Fortune are in a place that makes perfect sense. They're right there in the end of the chapter where you make the house, right? But then the effect of those rolls is halfway across the book in the GM only section.
It's like the cost of the weapons and what the weapons do being in 2 different
Yes.
chapters.
with a chapter in between. So, yep, sorry, I forgot about that. So, give me a second as I open a second copy of this PDF. So, they range from disaster, curse, decline, growth, blessing, and boon. So, that's worst to best. And those are all on the chart for House Fortune, but not the results of them. Those are 5 chapters away in the narrative section. So, my bad for forgetting to open that. So, what we're going to do on this first roll is just we're going to default to the single action of manage resources. And players, you can take a look at page 122 here. And what this lets you do is take some of your resources and move it to a different stat. Our stream got all wonky for a minute. Ash is resetting real quick. Remember, he's playing from all the way across the Atlantic. So sometimes he just has some crunch issues. But if we take a look at the PDFs, page 122, there's this table for resource management. And this shows what house resources you can move into something else at what rate. For instance, if you take a look at that table, table 619, you can move population into power at a 1-to-1 rate, which is kind of just recruiting some of your excess population, right? Like that's one of them that kind of makes sense, is that you can take people and put them into increasing your military forces.
Right.
Power, meanwhile, can be exchanged into influence, law, or population. The bigger your army, to an extent, kind of the more respect you get. So if you have excess power that is not invested in units, you can transfer that to influence. Because you've got the bigger army, you get a little more respect. Or increased law, which kind of reflects your troops doing patrols, right? Taking care of bandits and stuff. Or population to reflect, yeah, no, we let those troops go and now our population's a little bit bigger, right? You know, stuff like that. So most of this, you always also still need to have a kind of role play component, and it's going to take some time. That's why these rolls are like once a month instead of immediate. But that's how that chart works. So defense and law, you can't exchange into anything else. You can't break your castle in order to, you know, have a bigger army or whatever. Wealth is interesting. Notice on the chart, you can turn wealth into anything, which is the secret of House Lannister, right? With enough money, you can do fucking whatever. You can invest money in building a bigger castle. You can use money as bribes at court to impress people and get more influence, etc., etc. So wealth you can transfer to anything, but it's always at a 2-to-1 ratio. So you're losing something. There's some friction sapping the efficiency of that exchange. So where you guys are at right now is the statistic sheet that we looked at before the stream started. But I'm also going to give you guys 2 points of glory that you can invest anywhere. So as a group, you can decide on 1 point. Bela, you can decide on the other point, is how we're going to do this glory for the kind of conglomerate action that you guys just finished. Okay? So,
Sorry, Chris, did we use the glory we got from the previous arc in the tournament?
I know you guys invested some of that. I believe you invested all of it with that most recent stat line that we read off pre-session.
Okay.
I think you guys spent those. But yeah, just kind of for funsies. As a non-action, you guys have these 2 points to spend, and then your action for the month will be manage resources if you want to shuffle points around in accordance with that table. Okay? So let's start things off. Bela, where do you want to put your point of glory?
Well, it seems like we have some new lands, like the Dant lands, are coming into our holdings for now, and because of that, we're going to need some more troops to defend our territory. So I would like to put 1 point into power.
Power.
Okay.
I'm
Uh,
noting this stuff.
and in the abstract, this isn't enough to recruit more troops yet, or anything like that. But it is enough, and it makes sense in that you just had a big military victory, and some troops are going to hear about that, and some of your troops are more experienced now, and maybe that'll make recruitment easier in the future. So just have
Yeah.
an extra point of power, not invested in anything. But yeah, so you guys have that. And then the other three Nymerian siblings, where do you want your other point of glory to go?
I would say either population or power, since that seems to be the most readily exchangeable. What do you guys think?
I think that either one of those works. Um, I would like to start growing population because it and law are our two lowest in our stat line, and they're both 22, by the way. And then next lowest is defense, which is 30.
And remember, with defense, you need like 10-point increments for that to improve.
Right.
And you would also need to use a begin a project action. Defense is difficult and time consuming. We're probably going to modify their suggested times to build towers and castles and stuff because they were kind of crazy, as I recall. But you do need full 10-point increments for points of defense to matter. So of those two, I would steer more towards population uh, or lands, because remember, lands is also kind of some aspects of population. Like if you want to have a population center, like a village, which then opens up some options like markets and other stuff, that comes out of lands instead of population. So that's just something to keep in mind there.
Um, I'm good at population unless Adam wants something specifically different. I know you have technical issues, Ash, but you hear that?
I mean, we're going to be holding a tourney soon, so we might want to think about how stats that will make that make us more able to absorb the cost of it.
Right, and the tournament costs wealth. It costs wealth and it gives influence. So I think you guys have some uninvested wealth points still.
19.
Yeah, so you guys have that potentially covered. You guys kind of made out like bandits, only successful at the tourney. So normally that would be super important, but you guys are a little loaded right now. So that's another option.
Okay. I mean, if we're sitting on enough wealth already, that's fine. I just thought I should mention it.
Yeah, and when in doubt, that absolutely makes sense to think about what you want your next action to be, and make
Our
sure you
wealth
got
is
it covered.
49.
Yeah, you guys are.
Points.
Yeah, you guys are pretty wealthy.
Grandpa Makar is building a Scrooge McDucky and vault
Okay, that's fine.
women. So I don't know if that affects your decisions, but
Oh, are we going population?
I like that idea. How do you feel, Ash?
Right. So, I mean, I think what I would be considering is what what do we get from increased population versus what do we get from increased law?
All right. Okay, population score.
and for this, we're going to backtrack. For a population of 21 to 30, you get a +1 on house fortune rolls, which is to say, like, you have kind of a stable population in the abstract. They don't attach numbers to these for like how many people live there.
Right. So
But so that would need to go to a 30 to increase anything.
What do we have
Um,
now for it?
yeah,
22.
Right. And
Yeah,
in
so-
law also needs to go to like the next
10.
10 to influence. Right now, your law gives you a -2 on house fortune rolls. Getting it up to a 31 would make it a -1. Getting population up to a 31 is a net benefit of 1 more than that on house fortune rolls, like if that's your concern.
And they're the same score now.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're both at 22s right now.
So it sounds like they're basically mechanically the same. Focus on one
Right.
that sure it up.
And the other thing though is sometimes you might want to have a little more padding, because depending on what a house fortune roll is, if you lose 1d6 from an attribute, that could knock you down to the next level. So even if you're not necessarily investing it right now, sometimes there's no shame in just padding one of these stats by little, just as insurance from house fortune. So honestly, there's not many bad answers to this question.
Yeah,
It's just kind of
so-
a matter of where you guys want to go first.
One thing I will say is, mechanically, you pointing to either one is basically the same for us. The only advantage one has over the other is population can be exchanged for power in a 1-to-1 ratio, and power can be exchanged for law, influence, and population 1-to-1 ratio. Law can't be exchanged for anything.
So
Oh.
population has a bit of a leg up over law.
Beyond that, they're very similar to us.
but if we drop below that threshold for law, then we start to run into problems.
Yes.
same for the population, though, right?
Yes.
Unless the penalty
Yeah.
is a lot worse for law than it is for population.
They're pretty
Right.
comparable.
Yeah.
So either one is a fine answer. Just for the record, we're going to say on this resource management chart that lets you exchange stuff, I'm going to say that population can exchange to land at a 1-to-1 rate if you are going to immediately invest that land into a village or a hamlet or a city or whatever. Does that make sense? Because it always kind of bugs me that those come from land instead of population. So just there's a little bit more flexibility
Yeah.
there with pop. We'll say if you want to.
I mean, like, in terms of stuff that we've done, I feel like I feel like stuff related to land is increasing. So maybe population makes more, like, in-world sense.
I do
But then
agree.
we've also got more sort of prestige and therefore more control, which could translate into law. So I can see a case for either one. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
kind of
well-
having trouble.
You guys could
Yeah.
absolutely argue either one. You've cleaned up some bandits, so there's better law. But then also you could say, yeah, no, the Vulture King survivors have kind of scattered, so law stays the same, right? Like either way. And then with population, you guys have acquired some new banner houses, so there's more people coming and going from the banner houses, so population could be justified either way. So
I would say mechanically, population is slight advantage. Unless you guys flavor-wise really favor law, we should probably go that way.
All right. I feel that.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Not that it's
sounds
my
like-
choice.
I mean, you're still allowed to talk, Erica. You don't
Okay.
have to.
No,
Like, shut up.
quiet her.
I was just going to agree, though, that the population gives you the ability to transfer it to the other stats, whereas law is a dead end attribute for the house. You can't do anything with it once you have a point in law. Like you can't
Right.
transform it to anything else. But population is versatile in that regard. So if it's between those two, you can always get law from population. Not directly, but
Right.
you can get it.
Yeah.
And whereas you can't do anything with points.
So,
drop
all right.
off.
Sounds like that point's going into population.
That is where I put it.
All right.
Multiply by people. Multiply.
Next up is the action for this month, and that's going to be manage resources. This is your chance to shuffle some stuff around if you want to, and this lets you convert a resource into another resource. You can try this more than once. If you convert one resource, you get the first rate. That normally is a 1-to-1. If you do it a second time, you can do a second resource at the rushed rate, which in the long run isn't terribly worth it. But in desperate times, who knows? Maybe you need to muster a bunch of troops. So let's kind of go easy this first time and just stick with one resource. What thoughts do you guys have on converting something?
I have a question before we do this.
Okay.
We have all these unspent points. Why?
What do you mean? Give an example.
Our wealth currently is 49 and we have 19 points unspent. Our
Right.
influence is 56 and we have 11 points unspent.
Which actually should be 16 points unspent because you just got 5 more. That's largely because you can't spend influence on anything but heirs, and you guys already did that. So most of the influence that you have left, you guys can spend it to increase social rolls sometimes. You don't want to drop below a tens digit because then you'll lose some status.
Right, we got a plan.
but-
Let's get
but
Grandpa
there-
make her a girlfriend.
So
Yeah.
that's the issue on influence. On wealth, it's because that's the bucket of wealth that you guys took home from the tourney that just hasn't been invested in anything yet.
So in theory, we have way more wealth.
No, this is the wealth that you have. You have a wealth of 49 or whatever total. Yeah, 49. You have invested 30 points of it. You got the vineyard, the maester, and the artisan that gives you castle forged weapons.
Right.
But then you guys just have a bank of 19 wealth that you guys brought home from all your gambling with Magister Illyrio Mopatis. So you guys literally just have fucking chests of gold
So
that you have not invested in anything yet.
So our original wealth was 30?
Yes, I believe so.
So
May have
a
been a little
grand
over 30.
tournament is 10 wealth plus 5 wealth as a prize for each contest featured. A regional tourney is 5 plus 2 wealth for a contest featured at the tournament. We need to decide, I think, how much we're going to spend on that tournament, and then we can decide what else we have to spend.
All right. The point, something that I was going to bring up. It sounds like we have 16 points of influence that we haven't used, and
We can't, yeah.
yeah, and we can't really use it, at least not easily. And so we could turn that all in, like we could put 10 points into law, like convert it.
You don't want to convert 10 of it. If you drop below 50, the maximum status of the house drops. So you want to stay. So that's one that you might not want to invest yet.
Okay.
At least not all of it, because your influence caps the status of the house. Yada yada yada.
What's the current influence we have then, total?
56.
Okay.
So we could put a few points into law, though, to sharpen our law stat.
It won't bump us up to the next level, which is what I was going to
In case we
suggest.
take a hit or something. Yeah, I hate you.
Right. I think we should look for see if we can find a mechanism to bump us up in some category, if we can. But if we can't, then maybe that's our best play.
Well, the tournaments directly add to influence, +6 for a grand tournament.
Right, I'm sorry, can you say that again, Robert?
Yeah, the tournaments will add to influence. A grand tournament, which is the most expensive to hold, adds a +6 to our influence.
It's a
You
D6
missed-
roll plus 6.
Yeah, you missed that. It's a roll
Oh.
plus a modifier.
Yeah, I did. Fair.
Hosting a tourney is a big deal. You guys are not the numbers that they supply for the tourneys aren't gonna be the case. Like when they say how many knights show up and stuff, like a regional tourney is not going to draw 500 knights, right? Like those numbers are silly.
It's
You
too
are
many knights.
yeah.
George, we need
So-
you to need more knights.
So we are going to use the mechanical numbers for a tourney in terms of the wealth costs and the influence gain, but we're not gonna go by the numbers that they say arrive. Does that make sense to everybody? Just as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
side
that's
thing.
good.
Okay.
Because it
So,
doesn't make sense.
so based on what you said, a tournament is actually really cost efficient here, and let me explain why. So we invest a lot of wealth points into it in order to get influence, right? Well, normally if you just spend wealth to get influence, it's at a 2-to-1 rate. And if we do the big one, that's 15 wealth points, right?
Right.
But
and
you
the
said it's
minimum roll, yeah, if you roll a 1 on the D6, then you're at about the 2-to-1 ratio.
yeah.
Like,
But if you
if you
roll
win it
high on it, you're gonna get a benefit to it. So
Which I don't know if they did on purpose or not, but I like that they encourage you to host tournaments where lots of role play and shit happens. Like, I don't know for sure if they looked at the math, but I like that it encourages you to do something instead of say you have done something, right? Like most of the other ones, it's, yeah, no, we spend this and then we wait 2d6 months and we've got a market, right? In this one, it's like, all right, motherfuckers, run a tourney, right? And stuff happens at tourneys, yay! So yeah, it's one of the more, mathematically efficient ones. So you're planning to get an influx of influence soon.
Do you guys want to
So-
hold regional or grand tournament? I think is the question.
How much
Hey.
is the grand? 15?
A grand
Yeah.
tournament is 15
10?
wealth.
10 wealth plus 5 for every contest we have. And regional is 5 plus 2 for every contest that are held.
So that probably is going to make a difference because we're already thinking multiple different contests, correct?
Regional we can do a lot more for regional. The difference is going to be a flat +3 to the influence roll.
What's considered regional as far as like who would come?
That would be kind of a blanket invitation to all of Dorne. In your case, I would also say like most of the Stormlands because you guys are pretty close. But then you're allowed to invite other people outside of that. It's rare to have a tournament and like snub the Reach, right? Like you're gonna invite some of them.
You're not snubbing the reach.
They're not coming.
So, I think a regional tournament is the way to go, because if you did a grand tournament right now, that would be almost all of your gold just to have one event. So if you call it a regional tournament, and go with those costs, yeah, it's 5 wealth as a flat cost for like the feast and all that stuff, and then it's 2 wealth per contest. So that would let you have, a handful of contests, and you could still have a good 6 or 8 points of wealth free floating, ready to invest in a market or whatever down the road.
I agree. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, and Luke's going to strongly push for some sort of writing contest, if not just strip a joust. So
What about Adam?
Peter.
What does he think?
Okay, for now, let's worry before we worry about the
So
tournament
what
too
does
much.
regional mean, like, functionally in terms of...
In terms
I
of what?
think we kind of need to worry about it when we're deciding.
Well, that's what we're
I
talking
mean, like, what
Yeah,
area does that cover?
about. So,
Is regional, like, just the Stoneway, or is regional, like, Dorne, or,
Regional is considered all of the 7 kingdoms. right? So like you guys invite every knight in Dorne, and then also in your guys' case, because you are north and close to the Stormlands, I would say you're also going to invite most of the Stormlands, just kind of by proximity. So the farthest away western reaches of Dorne might not have an invitation, but you guys would have nearby Stormlanders for sure. But yeah, it's considered a pretty big radius.
Okay, so here's my thinking. We have two things to think about, right? We have the immediate action, and then we know that later on we want to have this tournament, right? So with that tournament in mind, we're going to get some influence. If right now we spend some of the influence we have to put it towards population to get us close to that next jump, when we do house the tournament, if we then afterwards spend that influence gain on more population, we will jump up a population category.
Influence goes to law, not population.
Crap.
But it's also true about law.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so sorry. Yes, we do that all towards law, so that we can start to negate some of those penalties that we're sucking from having a low lawlessness.
And in the fluff, working on increasing your law score before inviting a bunch of nobles over makes sense, right? Like even in the abstract where we don't know everything happens in neat numbers of 10, like it makes sense to go, yeah, let's increase patrols towards Will and Yronwood and work on tamping down some bandits before we invite everybody through to come hang out at our house. So that's an option that definitely makes sense. You guys could invest up to 5 points of influence directly into law without costing too much influence. Does that sound like the plan?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And that gets you most of the way to the next one. All right, then. So, influence drops from 56 to 51. And law jumps from 22 to 27. All right. That is the house action for that turn. Now, let's do this house fortune roll. Let's have the heir do it. So, this is a status test. So you are going to bust out your status dice, and you get a bonus for stewardship if you have it.
You told me not to take it, so I don't have it. I wanted to take it, and you guided me away from it like 3 times.
Does anyone have the stewardship specialty?
Bela having stewardship.
Of what specialty?
Stewardship.
Stewardship.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Right? That's
There
why
we
you
go.
told me not to take it.
Oh, okay.
Right. I'm going to say
Sorry,
you
I
can
cannot
apply.
hear a single thing.
It's okay, Ash. It's okay. It's not your fault. You can apply Adam's stewardship specialty dice instead of normal shenanigans of assisting each other and stuff. Just you get his specialty dice. So you are going to roll this, and then we have a total of -2 from law, +1 from Buck. So -1 +8. So you're looking at a total of this roll +7. So roll it, drop the bonus die, add 7.
That was a runaway die, sorry.
I heard it across the house. Hardwood floors, plastic D6s.
21.
All right, and is that with the +7?
Yes.
Okay. Did you remember your status bonus for heir?
What do you mean? I have a status 5.
Right, but I thought being heir gave you a +1 in all status rolls. Something like that, doesn't it? Let me check.
Oh.
Yes, you add 1 to all your status test results.
21 and 22 are the same on the chart.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that we're remembering everything. So we have a 21 to 22. That is a growth. Then
Yay,
we
that
go
makes
from,
sense.
then we go from page 122 to page 213, as one does. And we look at what growth is. Growth results the improvement of one or more of the house's resources. It can be a gift of land, a small swell in population, an upturn in the economy, and so on. Growth improves one resource by 1 point. Why does even this fucking paragraph isn't consistent? Growth reflects the improvement of one of more of a house's resources. Growth improves one resource by 1 point. Like, no, that's pretty clear. It's not one or more.
One.
It's one. In this case, let's say you guys are going to get population 1 as just a general uptick from cross-pollination with Danet lands, the reunification there, etc., etc. You guys are able to just get a general increase in the population of Nymerian lands from that. So,
All right.
first house fortune event ever increases one resource by 1.
Woo!
So there you go. Like that's your first look. And again, that kind of reflects the month that you guys weren't here, right? This is like what's going on while you guys are off waging war and yada yada yada. Because now, the month that you are here is going to be you guys prepping for Adam's tournament. So this month, and we're going to round a little bit, right? And it's not going to be exactly a month. It's going to be long enough for invitations to go out and for people to arrive. We will call it a month, right? So you are going to have the action.
Wibbly wobbly,
of,
timey wimey.
Exactly. Just like in the rest of Song of Ice and Fire, right? So your house action is going to be host a tournament because you motherfuckers are too busy to do anything else. There's a lot of stuff to get done. For the record, we're going to use very similar rules for host a wedding in the maybe not so distant future. I'm probably going to use almost exactly the same conversion as hosting a tournament because you're still showing off wealth and gaining some influence from a gross display of wealth. So it'll be similar. We'll see. But much like hosting a wedding, it's a giant fucking tourney with hundreds of people invited. So that's going to be your action for the month. What do we got, Ash? Ash, go ahead.
Question. Do weddings cost us money, particularly if it's a daughter of the house?
For simplicity's sake, and because it is Dorne, we're going to ignore traditional rules of dowry and yada yada yada, and we're basically just going to treat weddings like tournaments. Just, we're going to go with gender equality here, regardless of who is getting married. The host of the wedding spends the coin and gains the influence for showing off their wealth. So we're going to leave that just in the clear. And it'll be up to you guys, probably, when you lot start getting married, about who hosts the wedding. Because it's not unusual, if somebody's marrying you guys and moving into Wyvern's Rest, then you're probably going to host it. If one of you were to be moving away, it could be hosted at the other place, or because your house is probably more prestigious, it could be hosted at Wyvern's Rest. If it's hosted at Wyvern's Rest, the player characters do more shit. So we're probably going to have weddings hosted at Wyvern's Rest, So we're going to fudge tradition a little bit from time to time to keep the players more involved. And we're probably not going to be marrying you guys off to move away, right? Like Lady Alisane might think Adam is adorable and kidnap/marry him, but then we're not going to start a separate campaign on alternating Sundays where Adam tries to survive on Bear Island, right? So, yeah, it's going to be one of those things where
Sorry, Rusty, I did not hear a word of that, and I'm anxious.
it's
I
okay.
don't want to know.
I got as
Oh,
far
wait,
as
Anthony
like
is the-
marry Adam, and that was it.
All I can think of is the "I'll Make a Man Out of You" song from Mulan on Bear Island to Adam.
By Lady Alyssane.
But yeah, his sisters and whatnot. Yeah.
Just gonna drink.
Please don't send Adam to Bear Island. He will be very frightened.
We have to go rescue Adam. Why?
I mean,
A bunch of women want to do him and have.
but I thought Adam liked bears.
Then you have absolutely not been paying attention to what Adam likes.
I mean,
He likes jocks.
Chops.
Hey, if that's their women, they got their sons.
Strapping.
At a stretch, he likes twunks and wolves.
so yeah, from time to time, we're going to break with usual tradition in order to keep the siblings together and generally role playing. They may, even after you guys get married, if it's a couple years later, whatever, you may go to your other house from time to time during a time skip. One of you may host an event at the other house. But when we role play, when in doubt, the siblings are all going to be together. Maybe the Blood Royal just gets to change some etiquette a little, right? How convenient that you guys are the Blood Royal now, right? So we're not going to pull a Starks and just fucking scatter the Nymerian siblings, and then they're not going to see each other for 7 years. And then we all come back in 2026, and like finally we're all gaming on the same day again, right? Like we're not going to do that, okay? So we're going to
7 episodes.
yeah, so we're going to fudge stuff a little bit to just kind of keep the party together more often than not. But your house action is going to be hosting the tourney. Before we do that, let's do our other house fortune roll to see just kind of what happens to the house in the month where during the abstract you are planning the tourney. So Felicia, sling those dice again.
Roll them bones.
So it's this roll, drop the bonus die, plus 8. That is your total.
$28.
28. That is a boon.
Yay!
So, pardon me, while I jump to page 212, a boon is actually really super dope. It is the best of them. In the description, let's give you everybody the official flavor text, since this is our first time rolling one. A boon is a fortune of considerable benefit and value to the house. Its occurrence might signify favor from a lord or the king, a windfall, a beneficial alliance, a business opportunity, or a profitable marriage. A boon should always improve one of a house's resources by 1 to 6 points, or 2 of a house's resources by 1 to 3 points. So, let's have Erica roll a d3 and Robert roll a d3.
Okay.
I got a 2.
Okay.
I've got a 3 on my d6, so that is what, a 2? Yeah,
Mhm.
2.
Also a 2. All right. Let's increase lands by 2 and law by 2.
It puts law at 29 and lands at 34.
Getting close.
So this is to reflect the two of you that are the most martial horseman inclined and the least likely to be super busy with the wedding plans. Uh, Having some time on your hands and running some patrols with Sir Adam Bridington and coordinating with the troops up in Will and with Garrus Drinkwater down in Yronwood. And you guys are just kind of able to increase the circle of control around House Nymerian lands, meaningfully expanding your territory some and rousting some more bandits. What's up, Ash?
So, with regards to Ironwood Castle and their lands and their banners, is that all ours now? Are we going to appoint someone to look after that castle now? I'm sorry if that's a thing I missed while I was resetting.
So far, much like the lands of House Will, your uncle Prince Doran is deciding. In the meantime, both of those castles have friendly knights assigned to them and overseeing stuff. But Uncle Doran has still not decided. And he is kind of renowned for his patience and his thoughtful wisdom. So who knows? But yeah, he has not yet decided. They are both still under temporary stewardship, as it has only been a matter of weeks, yada, yada, yada. But as wardens of the Stoneway, and as the noble house that actually has their nobility living in it, you're both kind of exerting control over them right now, enough that you're, getting some work done. So, so that's where we're at. What we are left with then, for the hour-ish of gameplay that remains, is working out some details of Adam's tourney, which this can be as in character or as out of character as you want. I'm assuming that Ash is going to have some fun working up decorations and prizes and shit like that, and that Ash very much wants to. He probably plans on dressing up his siblings. So I know that all of that is going to happen, and you guys are going to have some time. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do the math right now while we've got the PDF out and we are adjusting the stats. Let's go ahead and decide how much wealth you're investing in the tourney, right? So there's a flat cost of 5 wealth for preparing everything for this many guests and paying for the feasts and the extra staff to help out and setting up a tourney field, right? And all that stuff, and all that's going on. So that's a flat 5 wealth that's invested. And then it's 2 wealth for each contest featured. Now, this can be increased. If you want, you can say you've got a 3 wealth prize for the tourney. And then you can say, oh, and then the strongman contest gets 1 wealth, right? Like, it's in the abstract, it's this much wealth for this many events. You can decide where to kind of invest them when it comes time to describe them. And this is all a minimum. And if you guys go crazy enough with these prizes, I might toss in modifiers to the influence roll at the end, or I might just work on my Sea of Spears Word document where I'm keeping track of what houses like you guys, and it could result in some modifiers there in the behind the scenes stuff. But it's a minimum of 2 wealth per event. Okay?
I don't know if anybody can see that, Robert.
Well, not my problem.
Oh. All right then. We'll have a joust, I assume.
Yes.
It's called a tournament, so you better.
Yes.
I would like to propose that instead of having lists and all that, that we do a champion joust. I don't know how else to call it.
Can you explain what that is?
We, as the hosts, or rather Adam as the birthday boy, determines a certain number of champions, and the knights in attendance can level uh, challenges at the champion of their choice. And if they
Um,
win, they become the champion.
so the way this works, one example of this is the tourney of Ashford Meadow in the Hedge Knight fiction line. There, they had 7 champions. It doesn't need to be that specific number. It's whatever, but it's that many champions that are there to nominally, in this case, defend the honor of the daughter of the Lord of the House, right? And then across a number of days, knights that show up walk up and tap a shield hanging over each champion and challenge him. And then they joust. And then at the end of the tourney, whoever the 5 champions are, uh, whatever, you can choose to make them fight, or just the 5 champions agree on who the Queen of Love and Beauty is, and they all get 1/5 of the prize. Like they're all champions instead of having one winner, or you can do it kind of however you want. But that's the idea: is instead of randomized brackets, you start and you say, like, listen, motherfucker, you guys have to fight Luke, Reyna, Bela, Sir Adam Bridington, or the Strong Sider, right? Or whatever. You pick your group that they need to represent the house in some way. They can be allies by marriage or whatever later on, like family allies, something that makes sense. Um, and yeah, then people challenge them instead of it being a series of brackets that go 32 nights to 16 nights to 8 nights to 4. So it's just a different way to do it, and it's kind of a cool way in this instance because it puts the player characters front and center.
I'm fine with that style.
Yes, I think that will do.
What other content should we have then?
Um,
I'd wager that Adam the Archer would like for there to be an archery contest at his tourney, even if Ash can't hear us because the Atlantic Ocean is mean.
I mean, I heard as far as Adam, everything before that I didn't hear. Sorry.
I was betting that Adam would like to have an archery contest.
Fuck yeah.
There we go.
And I'm not gonna do the thing of like sitting it out while where other people compete. I'm fucking competing.
I assume it'll be a melee as well.
You guys aren't assuming, you guys are deciding.
This is my suggestion to the sisters. I assume it'll be a melee.
Is there going to be a melee?
Probably yes. Bela, how do you?
I mean, I think it's cool to have one.
All right. Adam says yes. It's his name day.
I kind of feel like there's sort of like 4 sort of cornerstones to a tourney, and it's like a joust, a melee, archery, and riding. Those seem to be, and like those are like the 4 like basic things
I would also very much like to be a riding contest.
for me. Anyway.
Okay. So a champion style joust, archery contest, a melee, a grand melee, and a riding contest. 4 events.
Those sound good to me.
You could
I think that's
also
cool.
you could also call a Maester's Conclave, and there is an assortment of small folk contests that are kind of traditional, um, brawling, or a strongman's contest, small folk
Ma-
stuff
ma-
that
ma-
doesn't necessarily need to be formally part of the tourney, but you guys could be like, hey, here's 100 silver stags, go do a strong guy thing, so.
I like both those ideas.
I do too,
They
actually.
balance each other out.
I feel the same way. I like
I-
them.
Throw boulders.
Adam really likes the idea of a strength contest.
What?
I mean, not to
Adam's
compete,
like-
but just
Adam's
to
like,
watch.
but in the Dornish sense, they're all oiled up.
Nice oil, and it's too hot for like shirts and stuff.
All right.
This is where Adam invents Turkish oil wrestling.
Well, it's Dornish oil wrestling. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna
Turkish
say,
oil wrestling, yes.
I'm gonna say, unless you guys really want to, the brawl, which is also gonna be some wrestling. It's just fight each other without weapons. The brawl and the strongman contest can count together in terms of wealth cost. So that would be 2 for the joust, archery makes it 4, melee makes it 6, horsemanship makes it 8, brawl and strongman together makes it 10.
Which is
That would-
15.
That would be a total of 15 wealth.
That's what we have.
And you guys have like
Fuck, okay.
4 free wealth left after that.
It'll reduce our
Okay, I
wealth.
mean, like, having some free wealth after that's not bad. Although I'm now, like, slightly regretting my 5 wealth investment.
Well, and remember that you guys are going to have, that wealth that's left over, you guys are going to have some access to try and gamble some. Just so you guys know, the Magister Illyrium Opatis will not be able to attend.
Well,
But there are likely going to be other highborn folk that you can gamble with. So, depending on how the tourney goes, you guys might end up still making some wealth back.
why
from
don't
that.
we? How do you all feel about bumping the prize of the tournament, the actual joust, up by 50% to 3 wealth point, basically?
And then adjusting something else down, right?
Or just
So we have-
throw it.
if we have 10 gold for prizes collectively, you're suggesting 3 of it go towards
Well,
the
we have
joust.
now, and then put 3 to the joust, so it's the more prestigious of the events.
That could make it, for instance, half of a wealth point to the brawl and the strongman contest.
It's 100 crowns or stags.
105, I think, in the 210, or is it
Yeah.
200 even?
It's 210.
It's 210.
So that's still, it's a lot of wealth to a small folk. So that would be 3 wealth joust, 2 for archery, melee, horsemanship, half a wealth to the brawl and the Highland games.
Yeah, that works.
Mhm. I like it.
We're gonna have a couple weeks before this kicks off, so we'll have a chance to talk about this out of character also. But another thing you guys might want to look into is, what do you want these prizes to be? Are you gonna give them a sack of coin, or, for instance, one way that you guys might get an increased influence bonus from this would be, remember that you guys have one of the finest smiths in Westeros. And if you were to give everyone a castle forged weapon as a prize, and everyone went around bragging, this is the sword forged by the Associ Smith, blah, 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 that serves at Wyvern's Rest, right? Like cool stuff like that. So you've got time, but figure out what you guys want these prizes to be. What I think might be fun, just to keep everyone involved, would be each of you gets one event to decide. as kind of a pet project in character as well as out of character. Could be a fun way to do it. So everyone has to decide on a thing, and you can all figure out what you want to do. Are they getting a horse? Are they getting castle forged saddle, etc., etc.? Are they getting, what sounds cool? So, how do you guys want to determine that? You've got 6 events with budgets for prizes. Does anybody immediately have an interest in deciding what the prize is for any given event?
Yes, but let me back up to something. We calculated some prizes slightly wrong. We were talking about half a wealth point for the brawler and the two small people events, right? But half a
Right.
one wealth point is 200 gold dragons. So half a wealth point is 100 gold dragons. So if we were meaning 100 stags, that's like a
A
small.
lot less.
Yes.
It's a lot less.
So maybe, yeah. I mean, figure it out. Like, it's up to you guys. You have a total of 10 wealth to play with. So,
Yeah. Okay.
however you want to proportion stuff.
Yeah. So I was thinking, since the joust is like the marquee usually of the events, that should be a little bit more something like the heir or like head of the house should focus on. So Reyna possibly looking at that one, and then Bela for the melee, and Adam for archery, and Luke for the
Luke wanted that riding contest.
writing contest.
I get what I wanted finally.
Does that make sense? Are they? Would they want
It makes sense.
Duty? Yeah, that was good.
trade?
The only complaint that I might imagine is Adam might want to also decide the joust because it's his birthday,
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
and I don't want to make that decision without Ash here. But we can scribble that down for now and then decide it in Facebook
Okay.
when we're not dealing with communication issues from.
I might, out of character or in character, I might need some help finding a really good horse for this prize.
Well,
Um,
they gave a sandsteed away at the one at King's Landing. We don't want to one up the king.
it was a Castle Forge Sandsteed with also silver coin barding. I wouldn't be worried about it. His prize started out exorbitant and then got doubled and redoubled from destiny points. You'll be okay. Do we want to make it, because it sounded like we wanted to lower the prizes for the small folk contests. We could do a fourth of a wealth point for brawling and strongman, and then make it 3.5 wealth for the joust.
I'm good with that. That's still a lot of money for small folk to earn.
Yeah.
We might have a new lord in town just of his new wealth.
The other thing to decide is who is invited to these events. Do you have to be an anointed knight to fight in the joust? Do you have to be highborn to fight in these? Do you have to be lowborn to do the brawling or the strongman contest? Stuff like that. And also the
I
gender
would say
question.
you don't have to, but it's okay if you're not.
So they're all functionally open to all. Like, if you've got a horse and armor and stuff, you can joust.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I like that. I say the caveat is that the events that we specifically portioned off for small folk are limited to small folk. We shouldn't allow.
So some super armored, rich knight doesn't get in and start beating up the small folk. That makes sense.
That way they feel it's a bit more fair.
So I like to see Oris participate in the strongman contest.
Right?
He's technically not a lord.
He's lowborn.
He is a sir, though.
He's knighted now.
He is now
Yeah.
a knight, though. Not landed, but he's a knight. And by the king, no less. Oh,
It's up to you guys. And again, we don't have to decide it right now. But so some stuff.
I'm picking up so little of the conversation that I'm finding it really hard to be able to contribute.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay, Ash. We know. It's not your fault. Everything that we are doing right now is in pencil instead of pen because we want you to be able to take part. We just also don't want to end the episode an hour early. So, for what it's worth, we can hear you, Ash. So, speak up when you want to speak up.
Knight, the winner of the brawl. There's an idea. Maybe somebody can. I'm not willing to do it.
Ah, brawl is not battle.
I mean, we may very well see some small folk down there who would make good knights. Just depends on
you
what
could
happens.
offer a squireship with like a road to becoming a knight as a prize.
Huh.
Becoming a man at arms in the army of House
I think that's
Mammarian type
that
of thing.
sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
we find
true.
someone down there who's tossing like small boats around, making a man at arms. Not a terrible idea.
Don't forget, another classic prize for attorney is the hand of a maiden in marriage.
We don't have any of those. But we don't.
Yeah, we don't.
Do we not?
You guys,
I mean,
you
we
guys-
have Gwyneth.
You have some marriageable bachelorettes.
You're right.
Uh,
There is a young girl who might.
There are two. You guys need to
Yeah.
find a marriage partner for Gwyneth Yronwood and for the Lady Iris Dennett.
I tell you
I'm
what.
not deciding
I'll do-
either of those marriages on the basis of a fucking fight.
I will tell you this. I will do anything you want as long as I am not the one who tells Iris she has to marry whoever wins a fight.
Oh, you could also try to marry off Aunt Elia.
Or hear me out. I can live.
Try being the emphasis there.
She
But
would
it's
shoot me down with a bow at 100 yards.
so no interest in signing away betrothal, letting the gods decide which knights and lords are the most worthy of marrying the Lady Gwyneth or the Lady Iris.
Yeah, no interest in that.
It is a good
Okay.
I mean, like, Adam would very, very strongly prefer not to tie marriages to like prizes to be won. He would consider that quite dodgy.
I will say this. It is a good prize, and it is at least worth asking Lady Dennett if she'd be willing to do such a thing. She may very well be looking for a husband, and this may be a way to find her one who is at least strong.
She at least strong. Like no, you're gonna be the prize for the strongman contest. Because
No.
I know. It's just
I
like,
didn't know
hey,
you threw the telephone pole the farthest.
They're gonna get like a squireship, not
I know,
not
I know, I
a
know.
prize.
I was just
Who's strongest? Lift it. Lift the shit.
Grandfather Makar is all for it.
No.
As Sir Adam Bridington sounds almost relieved that other ideas come up, and he'll be like talking in the hallways. And don't forget, at this tourney, blah 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 blah, and their marriage lasted, and they had 4 sons, right? Like he's like,
Yeah.
you can tell grandfather has been pressuring him to marry again, or at least asking him about it idly, which counts as pressuring. But the Lady Iris herself makes it clear. She says, "My hand in marriage is yours to decide, Lord Nymarian. I would as soon see it given to an honorable knight as anyone else." So she actually doesn't seem terribly against it. She doesn't seem terribly for it. But the tradition would basically be not necessarily the victor doesn't necessarily get to marry her, because then no married knight would sign up for the tourney. But it would be up to that knight and his
Exactly, yeah.
household to decide who she marries. In this case, because she's Dornish and is the Lady of Dannet Lands, that would mean some other knight functionally being added to your bannermen. So it does kind of benefit the house that way, in that they would be expected to come here because they would basically be like her consort lord, because Dorne's gonna Dorne and she's the lady of those lands. So the situation with House Ironwood is not quite the same, because those lands no longer belong to House Ironwood, right? So it's not going to be the same issue. Your uncle, Prince Doran, has said that he would very much appreciate the assistance of House Nymerian in finding a suitable marriage partner for the young lady that remains of House Ironwood. And this is actually kind of a favor he's doing to you. Traditionally, that responsibility could go to House Illyrion, where her sister has married. That's where she's likely to end up if you guys don't find a marriage for her, is her sister, and House Illyrion would see to it. But if you guys see to it instead, it's a chance to host a wedding. It's a chance to flex on the whole kingdom by saying, yeah, no, like, it's up to us where she goes. And that's kind of more points on your side when it comes to deciding the fate of Ironwood lands. Because if
our
you're
system's
deciding,
kind of gross, isn't it?
yeah.
It's a lot
Now,
gross.
Now, out of character, so you guys know, as I've mentioned, I have lists of potential marriages for all of you. And I have found ones that are not gross. I promise. Even for Adam, I have found legally appropriate marriage partners that are favorable matches to your house that should not make anybody uncomfortable out of character. Adam might be uncomfortable in character before he knows things, but I have done my best with my knowledge of the setting to find marriage partners that will not make anyone uncomfortable. That is also the case here. I promise marrying her off to Sir Adam Bridington would be very clearly a symbolic gesture, etc., etc. And it would still be pretty gross. But like, that's like the last ditch. She is on some other lists. I have lists of other younger noble lords and squires and stuff like that. You guys could do a squires joust where the winner gets betrothed to Gwyneth Ironwood, right? And that would at least take care of the age issue, probably.
I
Right?
guess because
So,
like the squires are very very unlikely to be married because they're usually quite young.
right. And again, even if a squire wins, it's going to go to their house to determine, and maybe they send her to someone, But I promise, as gross as marriage laws are in Westeros, no matter who comes down here and does well in the tourney, you're not sending Gwyneth or Iris off to Lord Walder, right?
Oh,
Like, they're not
Yeah.
going to go be like the ninth wife
I
of Walder Frey.
the phrase he comes out. Oh,
So I promise it's not going to be.
Hey, Robert, one
Robert
of them's okay.
Frey?
Robert Frey's really
That's
nice.
the one
He's
good
a
one,
sweet,
you're right.
sweet boy.
What
but-
about
And the thing's like even if we did marry one of them to Sir Adam, he's not a bad guy, and I could honestly, with his reticence to actually like get remarried at all, I could totally see a sort of Tyrion Sansa kind of thing where he'd be like, yeah, okay, we've had to do this, but I'm not going to make you do anything.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah. I mean,
situation.
Everything all of you know of Sir Adam is that would be the case. Which there are other conversations that will come up if this becomes an issue, because it is stuff that I've thought about for a fucking year. But yeah, so There are options there, but I just want you guys to know, no matter if either of those girls goes up on the block alongside a fine bred horse as a prize for attorney, I promise it will be gross in theory instead of like sexually. Okay, like
Yeah.
I promise.
Um,
Um, and
Rusty,
I have lists of decent dudes that one of them could be wed to. That like I said, it's not. None of them are leaving with Ramsay Snow. None of them are right. Like it's gonna be okay. I promise. I have
Yeah.
a non trivial part of the work I have put into this campaign has been finding decent people to flirt with you guys, to potentially marry to you guys, and to potentially marry to others. Like,
I will
and
say
it
this.
Oh,
took
oh
and it
man,
took
Rusty.
work.
Man,
Just
Rusty.
saying, you
I,
Rusty.
I've just kind of
Sorry.
realized, like, I must have so badly derailed that in King's Landing. I've spent all this time coming up with these like problematic people to flirt with you, and I just go.
No,
I just want to point out.
it's
I
okay.
know you well enough, Rusty, that the idea of like Walder Frey coming down or fucking Ramsey, it never popped into my mind at all. Like
Yeah.
that was never an option. Like, I'm here now.
Yeah, just Ramsay Snow shows up for the
How old
archer.
is the girl? 14, 13, even better. Like that was never in my mind.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not gonna be gross no matter who ends up getting the betrothal rights. And remember also, like, Gwyneth isn't gonna marry someone at the tourney, like, necessarily.
Right.
Like, Iris maybe could, like, you could host a wedding the next week and everybody stay, but like, it's not gonna be immediate. It will be a betrothal to ... So there's time. There's time to figure things out.
Fine
You
with
want,
having Iris's hand be up for the joust.
yeah, before I back anything like that, I do want to talk to Iris though.
She's
And like
Yeah,
I
we
said,
definitely want to. Yeah.
her answer
Sorry, go ahead.
was as given. It was, I understand that my fate is not my own. I would just as soon let the seven decide and see to it that it's a proper knight or lord. Like
So
she seems pretty okay. Like she seems resigned to it either way. And at least this way it's not these people that she's grown up hearing awful things about choosing, right? Like like Lord Makar, the stream taker, isn't the one deciding who she marries. It's up to the gods. Like that's completely legitimate in Westerosi lore, right? If
yeah,
a fight, if a fight to the death of 7-on-7 can determine if someone's a fucking murderer or not, then a big fucking joust could certainly determine who gets to marry someone.
a totally
So-
legit.
You know what? I think like just kind of in world, that's not that bad actually. I think that's not like
yeah.
Taking into account that like people believe in that. I think the
All right
seven
then. What do you think?
deciding is actually okay.
But what I want to make
Because-
clear is, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, I mean, I was just kind of, I was kind of finishing already, but like, yeah, just like she's said that the seven is kind of in a way better than our grandfather deciding. So I think that's probably about the best we can get for her.
I want to make it clear to her, she's basically going to get Luke yelling like, "Damn it, Iris! Just tell me if you don't want to do this, and I will go back for you." Except that I guess that metaphor wouldn't exist.
So, as a thought, do we want to then make it 3 wealth plus Iris Danit for the joust, and add in a squire's joust for half a wealth point?
I hate equating a young woman's life with half a fucking wealth point. But in this setting, it makes absolute fucking sense, and it really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Well, it can piss you off in character too.
So,
Yeah, that's totally okay.
Yeah, Bailey
But
definitely
after that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So Bailey definitely advocates for this method. She thinks it's the cleanest and simplest way, and the less headache, especially for her. But she does remind you, if we're doing champion style, that how do we give a girl's hand in marriage if we have a group of champions?
And you can decide a final champion lots of different ways. It could be who's the champion that had to fight the most to be the champion, like who defended the most. Like if Bayla sits there all week and nobody challenges her, she's out of the running, right? If somebody else, if the strong sider wins 3 challenges and then loses to the fourth, whoever he loses to kind of gets 4 points, right? Like you can make up shit like that to decide tiebreakers, or you could go, all right, yeah, like do the joust, and then those 5 motherfuckers wade in and do a melee to determine the winner, or like whatever you guys want to do. So
Yeah,
there
I
are
would
definitely
say
ways.
have the final four or whatever. Just do it tournament style against each other.
And some of that can play into deciding how many champions to start with. Like if you want to do 4 champions and then it's brackets until there's a winner, then you want an even
Or
number of
8 or
champions.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
6,
So
8.
No, if we do this, we'll make at least one of the bizarre things that Barrick suggested come true.
What? What did Barrett suggest?
Remember when he was revving up Violet everybody
I
and saying,
legitimately
"Oh, it's
don't
gonna be for
remember
Thunder
those things he
Spear,
made
or
up. Like
for
you.
it's gonna be
What do
for
you-
the spear, or it's gonna be for one of the twins' hands, or remember all
Oh
the
no,
things
no, no. He
that-
didn't say anything about the twins. Like he just spread that it would be to marry Adam.
Yeah, I think it was Adam, and then like the Danet lands,
Yeah,
and then
And then it was
was it
Sunfire. Yeah.
Sunfire? Yeah.
it was on fire.
I remember because it was burned into my memory. Like
You're all welcome to suggest that to Bela.
I would do it
Yeah,
from
I
think
outside spear range.
Yeah.
That would be wise.
So I
So
mean,
what it
in-
could be then? Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
if you're fine with making him right about some of these outlandish claims, it's okay.
So
Hold on, I've had a thought. I've had a thought, and there is. I mean, while there's not like specific in-world precedence, there's precedence in other older narratives of like her choosing from a selection of champions.
Oh. Then she'd have 4 or 5 or whoever, or however many we decide. Say 4.
Because what came to my mind there was how Helen of Sparta chose her husband, which was from a range of people. Now I know how that went, but initially she chose Menelaus from a range of people.
Yeah,
I like that.
Oh,
the,
hi, Harris.
the tournament is the electoral college that narrows the field, and then she at least gets some fucking say. So like
Yeah.
that's an option. Yeah, you guys have, you have options.
Because if that like addresses even like in a small way your concerns, so at least she's got a range of capable and honourable knights to choose from.
Raina approves.
And I mean, and Adam would suggest that in character anyway. So
Yeah, Raina will approve that, because then
Okay.
she ends up with 4 or 5, however we decide, to choose from.
Do we
after
want to?
goes to her, is she still like she still seems like this is what she wants to do?
Yeah, she is. She is
Okay.
just fine with it. Do we want to transition to in character then, as you guys decide who the starting champions are going to be, and how many of them there will be?
I think that would be cool.
I would like to be a champion.
I would also like to be.
I don't.
I think even if I wanted to be a champion, I don't think I would be up to the task.
right.
Bridington, just to keep him on his toes, I think should also
That-
be champion.
Well, Sir Adam is one of the most capable and honourable knights that I know, so I could not think of anyone more fitting.
And he seems, well, perhaps when you get to his age, he just seems like he does not want a wife at all.
Well,
It's not.
I mean, he had a wife that he loved and lost, so I can understand that.
That's the one.
It-
So, and if anything, I mean, there are some who argue that a reticence to fill a role is actually an indication of one's suitability to it.
I
Those
would.
who
If you want to be your other
for-
champion.
For example, those who want to be in power are generally not suited to do it.
Yes, I would not.
That is absolutely not true.
This conversation just got spicy.
This is absolutely not true. I'm excellently well suited to it and want it.
Well, that's because you're the exception, sister.
I'm exceptional. I'm not the exception.
You are. Yes, you're very exceptional.
Do you think, as a champion, Sir Balin Swan would come down?
Perhaps we should wait until it's decided whether.
Whether
Well,
Bela is gonna
Yes.
like.
You
Yeah.
guys-
Yes, I think.
I don't know. That's necessary.
if
He would
you
come down
guys
to do his best,
Yeah.
regardless.
if you wanted to say that you were inviting the first that agreed to fight alongside you against the Vulture King type of thing, you could probably invite kind of any of those dudes.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm just thinking that if Iris is going to be choosing between these people, we should probably make sure that they are all eligible.
Yes.
Or again, that somebody in
Well-
their household is.
These are but the champions who will be challenged, and
Yeah.
not apparently who are going to be on the other side.
You know, I just don't want her to. I don't want there to be conflict.
At this tournament.
Well, okay. I will.
I know,
rephrase.
I
don't
was
want
just-
there to be. I don't want there to be conflict of the heart.
Oh,
Spoke
there
to Lady
will be.
Janet.
I have a
She
feeling there are things coming. Well, then
perfect-
what about Oris? Nobody beats Oris.
No. No.
Oris
And-
is a strong melee
and-
combatant. His riding
Shut up,
is all right.
I cannot stress this enough. No.
It's your tourney.
Do we all get one of these no's / yes / do this?
Nope. It's Adam's tourney.
It's my tourney, and I say like Oris doesn't get to be in that running.
Keep in mind that he can still just challenge somebody.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
You would sit the turning out.
He may
Because
not want.
realize that they get second place in the melee.
I don't think he wants to freaking get married either.
I don't really know what he wants, but that doesn't matter.
All right then.
I'll say then that I would strongly prefer that not to be the case, but if you really must, I'm powerless to stop you.
OMG.
It's
Or
just
Yorox would
it's
be.
just
5
my
to 7.
journey. Do what you guys want to do, I guess.
Oris the Aura. Oh, I guess there's always a possibility he wins and marries Iris.
Oh, my soul is leaving my mortal body right now.
Oh my god.
You're like, happy birthday, motherfucker. Deuces. And it just takes off to be your new neighbor to the south, banging Iris Dandit all the time.
You know what I
that-
really like about her? She's smart and she's into like bows and stuff and like reading. That's what he was
Oh, I-
saying in the
Oh, hey,
nightmare scenario.
I see what you're doing.
Stop it.
I fucking see it. Lots of people like books, Luke. I'm not weird.
You're
Well, not in that way, anyway.
So currently, we have the Lady Rhaena Nymerian, Sir Lucaris Nymerian, Sir Adam Bridington.
We four
Wait,
more. Well, how many
swap,
do we have?
swap Bela for Reyna. And yes.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I just wrote down the wrong one.
That never
all you
happened in their life.
all
Wait,
you,
hang
all
on,
you
hang on.
white girls look the same to me.
I held down the speak button to roll my eyes. That's how bad this
Wow.
is.
Wow.
6 or 8 champions. 7
So
is, of course, the holy number, but
That's way too many.
it is. I think 7 would be auspicious.
I
7.
agree. And then the
Seven.
top 4, whoever.
How,
Into.
do you think Grandfather would object to us inviting Ned to be a champion?
Ned who?
Ned Dane.
Dane? Edric
remember-
Dane.
He is not a knight yet,
He's a
Fuck.
so
squire.
that might. Yeah.
But wait. But do you have to be a knight, or does a lord being higher status?
I mean,
like-
this is your guys' tourney. It's up to you who gets to take part and stuff.
I think
Just because
Give it-
You guys said it didn't have to be a knight.
Adam's now got it in mind to like steer Edric Dane towards a marriage that is like allied or favourable to House Nymerian, so he's kind of got that in mind.
You think the Danes don't already have somebody picked out for him?
yeah, he's not wearing iris, Spuddy Beans.
All right then.
I will say
I mean,
this.
I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, and as someone who's also doing that, if we tell the Sand Snakes they can't participate, I think we'll all die. Especially after the last campaign.
I mean,
Well, they probably-
I certainly think Elia might fight us, but yeah.
None of them, to the best of your knowledge, would be very interested in a joust,
The melee.
except for Elia. Horsemanship, the melee. Elia would probably want to get into the squire's joust, but like actually wearing heavy armor and shit isn't really any of their styles. But they definitely would want in. And no doubt several of your cousins would challenge several Westerosi lords to wrestling just to see them blush.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
but they didn't.
if 7 is too many, 3 would still work.
If it was too many, then
7
then
is not too
have
many.
done.
It's a regional tourney.
Right, all right. I'm just saying that if that was a problem, that like 3, like 1 for each of the 3 heads of the dragon would also work
Symbolic.
symbolically.
Yeah, going for more is just fine. You guys do have your master at arms. So
I will
Derek
say this.
Away, the strong sider.
Putting the number 3 ahead of the number 7 would send quite the message of those paying attention.
I didn't say do it. I said maybe.
I didn't say it was bad. I'm just saying what would happen.
Right. So
Can you come up with 7 champions that you would like to start with?
We can find 7.
I think if you give me some time, yes. There is no shortage of them. It's just deciding, because any one of them could, well, any of the men could potentially be someone that Iris Dannett marries. We need to make sure that all 7 of our champions are men that we would be happy for her to marry.
Barrack and Balin.
Violet,
Top of my head,
just
right there.
I mean, that's
No,
why
Dornish?
I'm saying, that is why I said men specifically, because as nice as it would be for that to be a possibility, I think we might cause a massive rift in society. And
Keep it all down.
I'm not inherently averse to that. I would
Well,
kind of
before
like
we marry
to-
a woman
I would
to
like-
Iris,
I would like. What I'm saying is that I would like to not have a war over it.
As a couple reminders of reasonable champion types that are still available, there is Sir Derek Fossaway, the strong sider, the master at arms of Wyvern's Rest. There's also Captain Tommen, the Master-at-Arms of Danet Keep. He is
Oh.
lowborn. He is lowborn, but he could be knighted beforehand if you require knights. It doesn't seem like you're requiring a knighthood because Bela gets to be a champion, but the lady's own Master-at-Arms might be an appropriate champion, and even just adding those two gets you guys to 5.
Before we invite him, I like to talk to him. Just like, do that weird thing where I sit him down and judge him up. I'll make sure he's an okay guy,
He's,
not a weirdo.
he's the one that she grew up around.
Wow, all the more reason.
You're the one that found her in a whorehouse, and you're like, I need to make sure this guy's all right.
It's a weird situation to be in, but it is the situation we're in.
Yeah, the thing is, like, regardless of where we found her, she is still a highborn lady.
Right, I'm just saying, like...
a highborn lady in a ditch is still a highborn lady.
High or low, Luke wants to talk to the man before he invites her to be one of her champions.
I'm just saying, it's kind of funny, because he's the one that knows her, and Luke is the one that's deciding if he's acceptable or not.
Oh, yeah, no, it's actually pretty funny as shit, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ash.
Other question is, I don't think that Donald Swan is married. Balin's older brother.
He is the heir to House Swan, and that would be weirder.
Okay.
Because she is Dornish, the expectation is that they will find somebody to come down here.
Does he have
Okay, no, that's okay. I mean, there's also, like, House Swan is attached, well, like, sort of tangentially to House Smallwood, and I think there's at least one son in House Smallwood.
Yeah, they are a good side.
Yeah, like, there's definitely others. It's just like there's some that Adam would be able to think of who are not like people we've met yet. You could certainly think of like some Northerners as well.
Just remember, the ones you haven't met yet, it might be kind of weird to introduce as one of the champions of your house. Like, this is supposed to be the people that you guys know, and that to some extent you trust to stand in House Nymerian and kind of guard the way. What's up, Eric? Erica's got her hand up. Let's go.
Sure.
So, I think we shouldn't get caught up on trying to choose a champion that we think will last the entire length of the tourney and never lose. Right? We should make sure that like it's a reasonable person that can represent our house. But if they lose, it's okay because that's kind of the point of the tournament, right? Is that it offers people the chance to come and best our champions to win the prize. It shouldn't be like, yeah, we're gonna stick Oris in there because like he won't lose, and we're gonna stick me because it would take quite a champion themselves to beat me, and it's not like we're gonna just stack the deck with the winners of the King Robert's tournament so that our champions never lose. And that's why like Derek Fossaway and Sir Bridington and all these people and Drinkwater perhaps would be perfect people because like they're closer to the house, but it's a reasonable bet that someone can come in and defeat the champions to win the prizes, and not just the money's going to stay with our own house because we chose our champions.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I think it like even just like kind of speaking out of character without like an attachment there, that having Oris as a champion could be a deterrent for some people because he's kind of terrifying. So yeah, like I don't know kind of the sort of status of House Drinkwater, but there's probably like at least one person in House Drinkwater who is a good candidate. Also, houses Karen and Fowler are worth looking at because they've just fought alongside us as well.
The people who
and
allied with us
and Illyrian as well.
Yeah. The people who allied with us in the army and helped us defeat the Vulture King and also went on with us to help defeat the Yronwood you know.
For applicable ones that helped in both, it would be Lord Beric Dondarrion, Sir Balin Swan. Nominally, it would be Sir Miles Manwoody, but he was pretty badly injured. And he recently got his own tower. Wind Tower is his now, so he isn't likely to want to come, and he's injured and stuff. But it's basically, as champions, it would be inviting Beric Dondarrion or Balin Swan. And then Bryce Caron is known to be a solid tourney fighter. And the old hawk from House Fowler. Like, once you start inviting the people that came to war with you, it starts to be kind of rude if you don't invite them all,
Yeah,
right? Like, if you make that a theme, so it's just something to keep in mind.
that's a really good point.
Because basically the thing with the champions is who can represent our house and not completely embarrass us. And it's a way to show off, hey, like, our house is pretty cool. Sometimes, symbolically, it's a way to say, hey, you got to beat up one of my brothers if you're going to marry me, right? But it's that
Okay.
type of thing. It's meant to be kind of a good-natured gatekeeper. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of who's okay with fighting on our behalf and wouldn't shame us. It's kind of weird not to have Sir Adam Bridington or Sir Derek Fossaway, because they are your house's a couple of your martial champions. After that, if you had Bela Luke and those two, then you could have
With 3 more.
I would say like Dondarrion and Swan both fought with us in the tournament, in the trial by 7. So
They've
Yeah,
been with us since the
and both battles as well. You know.
so you have enough of a pretense to invite those two and not the other lords without probably pissing anyone off, because they have already been the champions of your house once before.
right.
yeah, Corbray and Will is dead. So that would be
If it wasn't Oris might be offended at not being invited into the 7 here, but it's Oris, so he probably isn't going to overthink it or care, and he's probably just going to go fucking pick a fight with somebody at the start of the tourney anyway. But yeah,
I am all for fighting Oris, but I think I get downvoted on that. So
I'm just saying, like,
Well,
so that
right. Okay, I want to be like really clear. Like, Adam clearly objects, but if he's like either superseded by, like, if he's superseded by any of you, he'll like be like, oh, okay, then, you know. So he won't be happy about it, but he's not gonna like. He doesn't consider himself to have an actual veto power. He's just like objecting. As far as he's concerned, he doesn't actually have to say.
to be clear, I literally meant it when I said that Oris like would not mind. He is not a highborn lord. It would not occur to him to feel snubbed, to go, hey, but I stood with you guys at the trial and I was at the battles. I'm just saying, if
Yeah.
he was like another lord, then they might be offended at being left out. Oris would not. So basically, you've got
Yeah,
one
no,
last spot that could be Captain Tommen, the Master at Arms of Bridington Lands, which absolutely fits because the Lady Janet is kind of up for dibs, or somebody else. Like, it's really kind of your call.
Yeah, no, I wasn't talking really about Oris being offended. I was talking about like the opposition to the other 3 siblings. So like if the other 3 were like, yeah, this is fine, Adam would concede to that.
No, you don't want him to.
It would be personally distressing for him as all. Like, he's not gonna like go against his family that way.
Well, it's not that important that you have to worry about going against your family. It's your name day tourney, and if you don't want your unrequited love to fight, then you don't want them to
Thanks
fight.
very much for prefacing it that way.
he will have to join the list and win to get a chance to marry her, like everybody else.
Right. And that's if he wants to. I mean, I know he's super competitive, but maybe we can aim him more towards the melee than the joust this time.
I mean, that seems to be more his thing.
I mean, I've got his stats, so like whatever. But he is an excellent rider. But yeah,
But
like either way, he's
he's
gonna be.
rolling in cash from the last tourney still. And
And
he
He's
just
like
got off a
4
war.
people rich. He's got like 2 gold dragons.
no, he's got a lot of money. Like not least of all because like Vannon gave him like 14 dragons or something like that, and that was upsetting.
Now there's a name in character that should maybe be considered for a champion.
Okay.
that is the other one and it had crossed my mind as well.
Now he may be off doing his own shit in the Riverlands and not be interested or be able to make it, but it's something that should at least, if anyone's interested in, should consider.
I'm sorry. Who are we talking about?
Vannon.
That's actually very true.
It's a bit outside the range of the tournament we're having, but
You are allowed to send out individual invitations on top of the assumption of all of our neighbors. Like, if you want, you can invite Lynn Corbray. If you want, you can invite, Van and Rivers. If you want, you can invite, whoever. My assumption is that you're also inviting like half of the Reach because you guys have been very friendly with, so you don't
Totally
necessarily
the
need
Tyrells,
to. You don't necessarily
that's
need to
true
list
about the
out.
Tyrells. Is that a tournament?
Yeah. So you don't
Hey,
necessarily need to list every invitation. But, all right, go ahead, Ash. Go ahead. It's okay.
champion idea. Hear me out, Sir Loris. Not
No.
married, is a knight.
Yeah, he is.
Have you met him?
I'm just saying.
He wants
We
to.
don't even know him.
We know his grandmother and his brother.
You could instead invite Sir Garland as a champion, and the marriage rights would go to House Tyrell. So it
There
could
you
be
go.
up to them. And it could
and-
also be.
And she is looking for someone to marry to Willis.
Yeah. 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 Let's do that.
Or we can invite Loris, and I don't know, maybe he'll like Oris. We'll see what happens.
I hate you.
All right. So it sounds like the Champions Row is going to be the Lady Bela, Sir Lucaris, Sir Adam Bridington, Sir Derek Fossaway, Sir Garland Tyrell, Lord Beric Dondarion, and Sir Balin Swan. That's a pretty
If they accept. Yes.
Right, that's a pretty redoubtable list. And you've got a couple of folks waiting in the wings that you could either knock the number down or have somebody else fill in. And then what we're looking at is potentially at the end of this, one of the 7 champions gets marriage rights to Lady Iris Dannett, and the joust winner gets 3 wealth worth of prizes shopped for by Reyna. Because she's the heir, she's shopping for the biggest one. The archery contest gets 2 wealth full of prizes shopped for by Adam. The melee, you need to decide what kind of teams you want to do there. Is it going to be teams? Is it going to be a free-for-all? That's kind of up to you guys. But that prize will be 2 wealth worth of stuff shopped for by Bela.
Teams of 3, maybe.
Horsemanship, 2 wealth shopped for by Luke. Squire's Joust, half a wealth point. Brawl, a quarter wealth point. Strongman, a quarter wealth point. Who wants to shop for those? Because those 3 are still up for grabs.
I'm
Or
very
what
up
does
for
one
doing
person want?
What?
I'm up for doing that if no one else is.
I want your help on picking out stuff for the joust.
I'd
Oh.
be glad to help you.
I'm going to pencil in Adam for Squire's Joust, Brawl, and Strongman as both the birthday boy and like the money clever one in the house. And the one that likes to shop for strapping young men.
In both
I mean,
ways.
he just likes to shop, full stop. But yeah, okay. If the shoe fits.
Adam's like it. The winner of the wrestling and strongman contests will get clothes that I shop for them after detailed measurements are taken. So stuff like
Speaking
So we're good.
of Fannin. Luke's gonna write him a letter. What is best horse?
Is that going to be the wording? What is best horse?
What is best horse?
All right.
Yeah, Adam's going to be writing some letters as well to various places. None of them are going to be asking about horses, but some of them will be more favorable than others.
So we've got about 15 minutes to go. You guys feel like we're going to be good to go on this tourney in 2 weeks?
I'm so ready. I'm actually thinking about what food the feast is gonna have and stuff.
Because remember, that's not Rusty this time. That's going to be you guys.
Yeah, you told me stuff was on everything, so I'll arrange the venue, the menu, the seating.
So, Adam, we're sending invites out to everybody, right?
Yes, I sense that there's something coming with this. Go ahead.
No,
Why are you asking?
I'm just verifying. We're sending out invites to everyone we know in the region.
Well, define region.
Westeros.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we're not sending them to. I don't think we're sending them to literally everyone we know, but certainly to most of the houses that we're not actively.
Cut the crap, Adam.
What?
Cut the crap. We're sending invite to Elia, right?
Of course.
Okay, good.
I mean, certainly wouldn't leave House Martell out of this.
Not my intention. No, yes, of course.
I suppose then, look, are you asking me to invite her personally with a good word in it for you?
Is that a thing you can do?
It's probably one of the things I'm best at doing.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, whatever. It's all fine.
It shall be done then, brother.
Fine.
So,
Very well.
who were you just kind of dared to invite? I was catching up in chat, sorry.
Cousin Elia.
Oh, yeah. They were probably going to show up anyway.
Yeah,
Stuff happens in Dorne.
Yeah, it's more that Adam is going to write a personal invitation that particularly favors Luke in its wording.
It prices to give me the best horse, so I get this letter back from Vannon about what that is.
Absolutely, I think she could be lured with a good horse.
Word it better than best horse, though. I don't know. Be creative.
Of course.
You guys do notice that among your soldiers, they refer to the shipment of armor that they got that helped your army there before the Vulture King fight. They've been referring to it as Elia's convoy, because that's how they got the story, was that young Elia Sand led the attack that stopped that wagon train full of armor. So they've been
Oh my
calling
god,
it.
I am going to fight her.
Sounds fair. Luke might have a crush, is all.
I leapt from the back of my horse
No,
onto a wagon in a chase, and Elia is gonna take credit.
She leapt from the back
Yeah,
of her horse onto a wagon
Rena,
too,
Rena?
and then she leapt back to her horse, and she stopped the heir from House Ironwood from escaping.
Adam shot him.
She did. Like, fuck, she did. I shot him in the neck.
Because she was in front
I am
and
not-
slowing
look-
down his horse. He would have gotten away from
I am
you.
not.
Whatever.
I am
It's
not,
Elia's armor.
I'm not even kidding. I will fight her barehanded to the death. This is unacceptable.
Alright, so is the wrestling contest open to Highborn then?
No, this is going to be a personal side fight.
It's a separate tournament event.
Whole different
Oh,
event.
yeah.
Called the grudge match.
Adam's like, this is my last chance to fight her before I'm declared a man, and it becomes illegal. So while I'm still a boy, I must beat her.
So
You know, I mean, you're not far off, but also just the fact that she's been like needling him for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, there's been several times throughout play where I've been like waiting for an opportunity to find her and go like, "What the fuck is your problem?"
I
But
do like
there's never like stuff's moved on too quickly.
I do like how
So I'm just waiting for us to have a fight.
siblings.
Sorry.
Oh, I do like how she antagonizes my siblings.
Oh,
Yeah.
she makes Adam so angry.
Yeah. All right. So we've got basics handed, budgets for the prizes, and you guys will all have, each have 2 weeks to figure those details out. We've got the events laid out. Ash, you're gonna work on some menu. You don't need to work up like everything, but work up, a good opening feast, closing feast type of thing. I don't
I can
think
do
we're
that.
necessarily gonna role play out like every night. You guys aren't gonna have to be personally role playing out hosting people at a feast. I do have things planned for some role plays with some prominent NPCs that you may or may not expect. The other question is, how long is the tourney?
I mean, like a long weekend. I mean, that sounds kind of
At least.
a week. A week. Yeah, a week. Fuck it, a week.
So make it 7 days. Joust going on throughout, probably, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Like archery contest 2 days, melee 1 day, horsemanship 1 day.
Good party day
Alright.
in the end.
Kind of. Okay. So we'll
And
spread those events out.
Yeah, and we need dancing. We're gonna get like good bards to play his music and shit. That's
And
gonna
it's
be.
like, I need some cages, some olive oil.
I have an idea for a song a bard could write called "The Folly of Anders Ironwood."
That's very cool, but also Rusty, not that kind of dancing.
And we need oil. We just get a lot of oil for no reason.
We're just gonna buy all the olives in Dorne and press them
It's a
for
lot of
great
olives.
justice.
This is olive country.
Of it all, people.
Olives, dates, citrus fruit. That's what we're all about.
And horses.
And horses. And yeah, I mean, it's probably more than just those things. Yeah.
All right then. It sounds to me like we are in pretty solid shape to commence with this second big arc kicking off. I will work up a number of knights to have show up and do cool stuff on top of the ones contact me in the next few weeks, players, to remind me who you absolutely want to show up. And who is sitting the Iron Throne right now? I missed it earlier. Somebody get it to
It's
people earlier?
it's
Qatar's
bizarre.
Tar.
All right, Qatar. Don't forget you've got that destiny point to spend. That could certainly get an unlikely person to show up at the tourney.
You
Let's say.
stuck.
So Qatar, make sure you hit me up, because you never know who might show up to this sort of thing. Because it was just basically going to be like a regional plus tourney, is kind of how I'm thinking it. And some of that plus is because you guys have been making headlines of late, right? Between storming King's Landing, and then the War of the Vulture King, and putting an end to Anders' Folly. Like, you guys have been making some news
You
lately.
can wait.
So
Yeah.
who knows who's gonna show up? But we hope that you, dear viewers, will join us back here in 2 weeks as we kick off Adam's Name Day tourney, which will have some combat. It'll have lots of role play. It'll have some feasting, all kinds of stuff. Wait, what do we got, Ash? Yeah.
No, I just noticed in chat that Badnug has said that they are sitting on Royal Boon from last time.
So you are. So yeah, Bad Nug, hit me up with that too. We'll see who either or both of you wants to show up. So Bad Nug and Qatar, hit me up if when you can. I think we've got DMs right here on Twitch that'll work. So hit me up with that. Or if you've got some other idea for a way for a royal boon to manifest, you know, we'll chat. We'll figure it out. See what monkey wrenches we can throw at the young scions of House Nymerian.
Maximum
All
drama.
you think is like the way the military does. The wall starts sending people to tourneys to recruit people.
Right?
They used to. I made a character once upon a time that was supposed to be in a game set like 500 years earlier. That was the Knight of Crows. And he was this dashing tourney knight that was like a fourth son that went to the wall because it was still honorable. But he like had the tourney knight quality, and he was a wandering crow that like tried to get good people to join. Because back before they kind of declined this way, it was pretty honorable to join the wall. So yeah,
Maybe Pork has stopped by.
so like he was this, no, it's a little bit too quick for somebody to make it to the wall and back.
A little fast.
Yeah, a little quick for George R. Martin travel
We
time.
don't have season 6, 7 fast travel yet.
Back in
Not
back in
just-
back in like one of the old games, the one that you kind of joined just at the tail end of, Rusty, was like what one of the characters who was playing, my cousin, like she wanted to be a knight, but well, sexism, so turned up to a tourney as a mystery knight called the Knight of Stones to make a kind of joke about masculinity, and she fucking smashed everybody. It was great.
Nice.
Yes.
So yeah, you never know who might show up at a tourney, and you might not even know until you see them on the inside. Speaking of upcoming events, though, we've got the tourney coming up, and that's going to be our next big arc. We also might have some movement coming in terms of what channel we're on. We're still narrowing down a date, but we've spoken with the Shadowcasters Network, and as they are moving away from Twitch and Twitch games, we're going to look towards setting up our own Twitch channel. So keep an eye out in here. We're going to try and pin down exactly when we're going to move. When that happens, check the Shadowcaster Network Discord, because we're going to at least have them post some announcements for us, and maybe see if we can leave an announcement screen here in Twitch. But we are going to be setting up our own Discord channel and our own Twitch channel, so keep an eye out here for updates on that. But yeah, that's going to be happening in the next month or so. Very kind of nebulous right now. We're still deciding on a couple things. But keep an eye out for that move, and save up your bits and cheers and subscriptions and coins and whatever else, because we're definitely going to need the help once we get a new channel going. And we look forward to seeing everybody back here for that. But first, we look forward to seeing everybody back here in 2 weeks as we start Adam's name day tourney, and our young boy becomes a man.
Grown ass man.
Right? So they're getting so old. So yeah, we'll see everybody back
Yeah.
here in a couple of weeks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out, y'all. See ya.